Greetings, fellow armchair Imagineers! Tiki here,
And Blue Dragon 5.
and welcome to the show where we wax poetic about the movies we see on a month-to-month basis. It's time to crack open our... Oh god, it's getting heavy here, Dragon. It's getting heavy because it's filled with Oscar contenders. Cracking open our movie memoirs! Sorry, that was unrehearsed. Anyways, how you doing, Dragon? Let's get right into it. The news! Movie news!
Yes.
Woo! Alright, so Dragon, I went to go to it wasn't an IMAX theater, but it was definitely like a Dolby Deluxe theater in an AMC screen in San Francisco to see 1917. And Dragon, I figure if any theater is going to have like that big Tenet trailer on the big screen, which they urge you to see in the actual trailer itself, it's going to be that, right? It's going to be 1917, big screen. All right, we're going to showcase the Christopher Nolan movie coming up next year. Dragon, I got about 10 trailers. None of them were 1917. I'm sorry, none of them were Tenet. None of them were Tenet. They were all just throwaway junk trailers. So let's not talk about throwaway junk trailers. Let's talk about the big stuff that I did not get to see on the big screen, and I'm still a little bit bitter about. Tenet. Dragon, I know nothing about Tenet, really, and I like to keep it that way. I have heard a fan theory about Tenet. Do you want to hear it?
Sure.
Okay. The fan theory I'm hearing about this, Dragon, is that it is a backdoor Inception tie-in. Could be. I don't know. At any rate, I like that the trailer is so vague. I like that we really don't know much about the concept beyond just a vague, like, hey, look, Nolan's playing around with time in some way. And it's like, wow, okay, Nolan. So what are your thoughts on the trailer?
Well, yeah, purely going off of what we see and basically just kind of like the vague genre that we know it's going to be, and the trailer kind of verifies espionage. It's pretty safe to assume espionage. And of course, Nolan being the big fan of the Bond movies and always just kind of been aching to do an espionage, very specific thing. And basically, we have this really cryptic trailer. I remember I saw like a once in a lifetime kind of teaser because again, like I think it's been ridiculous the way he's been advertising Tenet. Personally, I think it's the only time I felt like I'm on Nolan's side. Like 9 times out of 10, this is like the one time where it's like, come on, man, you're like some people got like the 8-minute. Some people who saw Star Wars in a very specific way, they got like 8 minutes of Tenet.
What? Oh my god!
Yeah,
I didn't
like
even know about this.
Yeah, some people got the 8 minutes of Tenet. I got the trailer with Star Wars. Finally, but not I saw it in theaters. Oh wait a minute, no, I think, God, I forget if I saw the trailer with Tenet. I eventually saw it. I saw the teaser once. Maybe I'm thinking I saw the teaser again. With Star Wars. I forget if that was the same trailer or whatnot. Regardless, the point is I saw something with Tenet finally with Star Wars when I saw it. Regardless, trailer that everyone's been able to see now that's finally been online. Basically, everything seems to hinge on the word Tenet. Is become like a call sign code within among spies. We have John, I believe it's John David Washington, Denzel's son.
Mm-hmm.
Who was from Black Klansman, who was really good in that. So I'm really excited to see Nolan working with him and working with yet another Batman, apparently, with Robert Pattinson. That Nolan, he loves.
You know me, man. You know me. I'm Pattinson's. I'm a big Pattinson fan. I've always been since. Probably since Good Time, but probably before that. I mean, he's impressed me before that, even.
Let's see Nolan do a movie with with George Clooney and and Michael Keaton. Let's see him do that one next. Anyway, so basically, it seems like we have a time gimmick here. The big question I have is either they're trained to see kind of time go in reverse, or they're actually going to be able to reverse time. That's the question. The question is how supernatural are we going with kind of our visual kind of gimmick here?
Mm-hmm.
Seems to be kind of like Nolan always has kind of that miracle exemption or kind of that miracle conceit within the work, and kind of it sounds like we're going kind of memento with it to an extent. So that's really interesting. And also he has really good composers. Some people mistaken in that 8 minutes. Some people mistaken some Hans Zimmer score. It is not Hans Zimmer. Hans Zimmer isn't doing this movie with him.
Who was it?
It's Ludwig Göransson. Remember the guy who's done the score for Black Panther, for Venom, for Mandalorian.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, good talent there. Some people, here's a bigger fan theory. I think time travel is going to be involved. Period. With this whole reversal of time, that's the thing that we're going to like.
That's the thing. I do think that this is if anything, it's a Nolan time travel movie.
Like, is Nolan going to make the better version of Clock Stoppers? That's the question.
Oh my god!
Seriously though, think about it though. Again,
I
the
love how
idea.
you go instantly to Clock Stoppers.
But seriously, it's like the one sentence premise of this that pretty much goes with what you saw in the trailer is that they're trying to stop World War III from happening, essentially through presumably espionage. So essentially, again, they might be either using some like technology, kind of a la an Inception, where we have like a next generation military item that kind of grants us our conceit of the film, which again, very much like Clock Stoppers, is kind of like a next gen military thing to. Anyway, point being, Tenet seems very exciting.
Well, Sean's going to come in and just be like, "You thought you could control time?"
Well, Sean's been in the Oscar contenders this year, so don't don't put it out of the realm of possibility. Anywho, so speaking a little bit of Mandalorian there, an actor in the next trailer we're going to be talking about.
Right. So Wonder Woman 80, Pedro Pascal.
Yeah, man, I love when Pedro Pascal shows up in things. He was in the second Kings movie. I think it's where I first saw him because I heard he was in Narcos, and you saw him in that, and you hear, oh yeah, he's going to be in the Mandalorian, and then Wonder Woman. He's playing Maxwell Lord. Now, Maxwell Lord, famously in the comics, Wonder Woman killed Maxwell Lord. She snapped his neck. That was kind of one of his big claims to fame. He's kind of a media kind of manipulator. That's kind of his role, and of course seems very indicative of the 80s, kind of like a George Orwell sort of 1984 in the sense there. So I think we might be going a little bit there with the next Wonder Woman. So as you know, Tiki, I'm very eager for Wonder Woman 84 because, as I've said many a time, I'm tired of the old Wonder Woman story. If she goes to Themyscira, she has kind of a Greek myth odyssey of some variety. That's cool. That's fine and all. We've seen the origin. Last movie was good. Nothing wrong with that. I love the first Wonder Woman movie. It's great. However, again, you know this story. We've seen it adapted every time in animation. We do the first story. She's on the island. Whoop-de-doo. Okay, good stuff there. But I want to see her in the city. God help me. I want to see her in kind of like the Wonder Woman, like the TV show setting.
I want to be exactly what this movie's promising, and in a cool like 80s sort of like techno vibe to it too.
Like the biggest head scratcher I have, and I assume that Patty Jenkins, again, I'm speculating with the whole George Orwell element of it all. I can only assume she has a really good reason for putting in 84 instead of like Wonder Woman 77. Because of all the things you think, it's like with Batman. Sometimes it's going to be like an 89 or 66 in many circles. It's going to be like a big historic year or historic number. And with Wonder Woman, traditionally that's in the 70s. In this case, we're doing the 80s. Definitely, there's an aesthetic appeal to it. Of course, one of the biggest scene I'm hyped for in this movie is the mall scene, man. I can't wait for the mall scene. This is everything I want to see in Wonder Woman. I want to see her in the city. I want to see her doing stuff, and she has a really cool action sequence. We got an even brighter color palette, which looks really good on her. Just looks like a really great sequence. Later on, she's sporting this eagle armor from Kingdom Come. It was famous in Kingdom Come. I forget if it was first introduced there, but she has like this really interesting looking battle armor. Big question, big mystery that we're kind of promised in the trailer. Steve Trevor, how's he coming back?
You know what? That is kind of the thing that I'm most skeptical about with the movie, honestly.
Well, I gotta tell you, some people are theorizing it might be magic because Maxwell Lord has this little stone on his desk. It might be a decorative thing or it might be an important plot thing. Then again, some people are theorizing an even better theory, Martian Manhunter.
Ooh, wait, how would Martian Manhunter, isn't a shapeshifter?
Yeah, as in he would just shapeshift into Steve Trevor, therefore would be a new character. But he would just,
that would, that would be something.
Now, for those super involved in the whole release the Snyder Cut of it all, I think they might know that according to Zack Snyder, and this is a good thing as well. It's really too late for him to announce this sort of thing, but he said the Martian Manhunter was the general from the Man of Steel movie. So it was General, the one who was. I'm sorry, I think it was General Swan something. It was the point being the general from the Man of Steel movie.
Okay.
He was supposed to be the Martian Manhunter, which could have been interesting, but again, a little too late.
All right. So So yeah, Wonder Woman 84, definitely looking forward to it. It's got some strong 80s vibes. You know what else has strong 80s vibes, Dragon?
What?
Ghostbusters Afterlife. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da. We're doing Stranger Things in the Ghostbusters world. Yeah, I don't know, Dragon, for better or for worse, this just kind of seems like Stranger Things to me, starring the main Stranger Things kid. So it looks cool. I mean, I do think it looks cool. I do think just like the whole, I think it's an original take on Ghostbusters, and I like kind of like the small town environment. Don't get me wrong. I don't know. There's something about there needs to be something for me to distinguish it from Stranger Things. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, I was very happy with it. Of course, one, they can't do any worse than what happened last time. I think we know that much.
I
So
am
regardless,
very cautiously optimistic. Very cautiously optimistic.
I mean, come on, how can they? I sat through that movie, man. They can do anything at this point. They will be. I have honestly, I think it's in good hands. We're giving to the son of the director. We're giving to Jason, the Jason Reitman, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah.
Jason. Anyway, yeah, Jason Reitman. Honestly, I mean, I like the history of the whole Egon's descendants, Egon's grandchildren. The whole I saw the spores, molds, and fungus. Like, oh god, it must be yes. And I mean, it got you there, man. Again, I'm not a diehard Ghostbusters fan, but I do like I like the movies, and it's like it kind of filled you with a sense of of kind of wonderment, of nostalgia, let's call it. And it was. I don't know. There's something. We'll see how much of the Stranger Things vein they go into, because obviously with Finn Wolfhard in there, there's going to be obvious Stranger Things comparisons. The thing I love that Egon's granddaughter is a really good actress. We have McKenna Grace in the role for his granddaughter. I think I think we have really good kid actors in the main roles for Egon's grandchildren.
Now, McKenna Grace, you saw her in that Chris Evans movie, right?
Yes, she's. I've seen her on TV a couple times. That was the big thing I saw her, and she's really good and gifted. And she was in Captain Marvel when we had the pointless flashbacks in Captain Marvel.
Yeah, she was the pointless flashback in Captain Marvel.
But again, she's really. I can vouch for her. She's really good, so I'm sure she'll crush it. Regardless, and of course, Paul Rudd's going to be. I want to see Paul Rudd don the suit, man.
Paul Rudd is the thing that I am the most excited about. I think Paul Rudd is like the conspiracy theorist science teacher is just great, and it's totally like within the Ghostbusters lore while being its own thing.
Essentially, the world building is everything I kind of wanted from another Ghostbusters movie, where again the biggest flaw of the reboot was, well, why you can have different people in the suits, that's no problem. Just acknowledge that the other stuff happened. You'll be golden. That's fine. Just don't say like we're doing it all over again. It's less all the ridiculous reasons people are just jumping down that movie's throat, aside from the obvious fact that it was terrible. It's just like it's all the politico of it all that people get obsessed with. It's literally just the fact of like, well, it's so simple. That's what we're doing now with the Ghostbusters. Like, it's in the future, we have different people in the costumes, and that's kind of what we're doing here. It's the next generation, in the literal sense, in the afterlife of it all seems. It looks like it's going to be good. Will it be great? We'll see.
All right, so Dragon, it's time to get into the in memoriam section. And Dragon, we really lost a legend this month. We did a whole podcast in memoriam to him. We lost Carol Spinney, and this one hit me hard, and I'm still not over it entirely.
Yeah, I'll say it again, man. In his last moments, I believe they lit the Empire State Building in honoring of him, didn't they?
It sounds like something they would do.
Yeah. As I'm saying, there was a ceremony where Big Bird was there with him, and you got to see Carol Spinney. It's been like I haven't seen Carol Spinney since I Am Big Bird. I haven't seen.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I haven't seen Carol Spinney since I Am Big Bird. That was roughly 5 years ago. It was 2014. Versus when we kind of last saw him. Man, the man was he was kind of wheelchair bound. He had this condition where essentially his arms kind of locked into a position. And it was basically the man wore the battle scars of a man who'd put everything into his craft, and it showed. And it was just seeing like that kind of being honored properly. It was something. It was something. Just finding out that he had passed, and then looking into that thing, like, oh God, man, he was. he had retired. He always said he was going to do the job until he couldn't do it anymore, and I think that absolutely showed. And it was a shock. I learned about it from you that he passed when you said, "Oh, when are we going to do a little tribute to Carol Spinney?" It was rather tragic.
So I went ahead when the news hit. I went ahead and ordered this online. Let me see if I can get a good shot of it. Very highly detailed figure there, and I will definitely. And Dragon, I know this is one of the first figures of this quality that I've bought, but I think it's a good way to commemorate the man. Anyways, Dragon, hold on. Let me turn my camera off. Get the screen share back up. Did you see the Tom Hanks clip I sent you?
I did. Actually, I saw it before you sent it to me, but okay. I saw it because, of course, how could I not? With Carol Spinney on kind of our hearts and minds lately, and of course, the other emissary of everyone's childhood lately, Tom Hanks.
Oh my God!
Just having this crossover for the ages.
So it's the Kennedy Center honors. Which, by the way, I love that it's the Kennedy Center honors. It's like that just goes to show you, everyone thinks that the Kennedy Center honors are like this stuffy affair. It's like no, fun stuff like this can happen. I don't know, but so Big Bird's just like, oh, T. Hanks, thanks. Is there a thanks here? It's adorable.
It also gave a lot of credence to our Hanksgiving in retrospect, by the way.
It really did. All right, so let's see. Take us through the other two, Dragon, because I'm not as familiar with them.
I know you're familiar with the last guy, but anywho, so of course we have Rene Auberjonois. Auberjonois. This guy. Here's the thing. This guy was one of the all-time greats in my book. I love this actor. See, he was many people know him from his work on Star Trek, which I don't. But he was on DS9. He was kind of, I think he was the guy with the kind of this weird, funky-looking head on that show. I barely know. He was on one of the permutations of Star Trek. That's what a lot of people knew him as. I knew him in live action. I knew him from Boston Legal, which remember we talked about on here one time when I finished binging through Boston Legal. He played Paul Lewis, and one of the head honchos at Boston Legal was always kind of giving Denny Crane the business because he was kind of crazy on that show. And this guy just exuded respectability. He was his last name, as you can probably know, is kind of French. Auberjonois is his last.
A little bit, yeah.
His name was, by the way, famously, this guy, he rolled with it too, because every time people get his name wrong, they always have this fun banter with him. He explained how his name is. He's used to it by now. Man, this guy was. Rene was such a class act, man. His last name actually translates to armorer, which is kind of cool. I had no idea until I looked into it. Oh my God, his last name. I found out even more things. I think Tiki, you've seen this guy. He's been on your nose the whole time and other things. That's kind of the cool thing about this actor. So the thing I know, the role, my favorite role that he's ever played was in Tarzan. The animated series was in Legend of Tarzan. He was Renard Dumont, and this is kind of based off the Edgar Rice Burroughs books. Tarzan had this French character that he'd interact with many a time. I believe. God, it's been a while since we did that Tarzan. We did the retrospective on the Disney movie, and I brought this up. But essentially, I believe in the Burroughs books, Tarzan either had a friend who was kind of this Frenchman, and in the show, I believe based on that, there was this man who started a trading post in the jungle in Tarzan's territory, and basically they didn't like it. Tarzan didn't like him kind of coming on the territory at first because like a stranger coming to the jungle who's building a business, an import-export business that is going to bring in more visitors that are going to cause trouble for Tarzan and his pals. And they had this kind of begrudging respect where he's always trying to steal Jane out from Tarzan, and it's like kind of like the savage man versus the businessman. It's like he had a very wonderful, it's almost like a vaguely Claude Rains dynamic he has with him, like Claude Rains and Humphrey Bogart and Casablanca almost. It was really fascinating. So I love him in that. He was the Mechanist in Avatar: Last Airbender. Did tons of voice work. He did. You've seen him in bit parts like in Batman Forever. He was Dr. Burton at the end of Batman Forever when we go to the Riddler's cell. The guy was like styled after Tim Burton. Yeah, and I also know him for like one of my guilty pleasure movies. He was in Inspector Gadget. He was Artemis Bradford. He was the father who got killed at the start of Inspector Gadget. Like he's been on. I had no idea that was him after all these years until I looked back. Like, oh my God, it was him. But seriously, folks,
like one of those guys that just kind of pops up everywhere, and you never really like, a character actor if there ever was one.
Absolutely, but I was really bummed out when I saw his name pop up because I really love this guy. So it's a shame, man. He was one of the greats. I recommend people look into him again. Check out Boston Legal or Legend of Tarzan, especially. That's all I'll say. Just wonderful actor, underrated.
Okay.
Right, Lee Mendelson, giant of the Peanuts, has passed away. The man who brought us Charlie Brown Christmas.
Yeah, so this is basically the guy who was responsible for the Peanuts becoming a media brand, right?
Yes.
And extending outside of the comic strip.
Yes, he produced. I don't know if he produced all of them. I know he at least produced I know he produced this and Great Pumpkin Charlie Brown. I assume
for sure.
Yeah, you know what? Here's the sad part: is that Lee Mendelson, he really went to bat for the Peanuts. He got him in animation again because he was doing the documentary on Charles Schultz, which kind of like began the Peanuts with I believe it's the initial one was something Charlie Brown. It wasn't like Good Man Charlie Brown. It was something. It was Good Old Charlie Brown, I think it was called.
Yeah.
The documentary piece. And then after, basically while he was negotiating that, he had a Coca-Cola proposed, "Why don't you do a Christmas special?" And says, "Okay." And he kind of got there.
Coca-Cola proposed that of all companies.
Yeah, there's actually a deleted scene from the Christmas special. There's only one little deleted scene in Charlie Brown Christmas where Charlie Brown gets flung into the snow, and then the credits pop up. A Charlie Brown Christmas, and a little Christmas lettering. But Linus, you'll remember, he threw Charlie Brown and Linus. Now, originally you saw Linus being thrown the opposite direction. He landed into a Coca-Cola sign.
Oh God, nice.
Cut that, I guess. I don't know if it was there for like during the original air date or what, but like it's never been on like a home video or anything. So you can see like the scene somewhere if you look. Yeah. The irony though is that Lee Mendelson, he died on Christmas. He died on the 25th, for 54 years to the day.
Oh man, damn!
It's just like, how poetic can you get?
Christmas time is here. Yeah.
All right. Okay.
So Dragon, time to get to TV and something that I haven't been following at all. Crisis Reaction. Go for it, buddy. You take the floor on this thing.
So once Crisis is done, we might do a little. We're not 100% sure how quite yet, but we'll come up with something to kind of talk through the Crisis. That's going to be a major event. So it hasn't finished yet. Basically, what they did is it's going to be in 5 parts, and they did 3 out of the 5 parts before the Christmas break. So we had an episode of Supergirl, an episode of Batwoman, an episode of Flash. Now I'll keep it brief. We started strong with in Supergirl. We started strong with a cameo of Burt Ward. I'll say that much. They have a bunch of cameos, and one cameo in particular, Burt Ward, is just truly just like the best way to start off. I think I told you this, where it's like we set up, okay, the crisis is happening. We see all these doomed realities, and basically the multiverse is being wiped out one world by one world, and we kind of glimpse at these other realities, and we see a few familiar faces, and then we have like Burt Ward kind of like opening us properly, and he says, "Holy blood, red skies of death," and that's like Crisis, Infinite Earths. It's like and we have the '60s Batman music playing underneath him when we see him. It's like, yes, awesome. Just like that's the way you start off. So I'm just going to give you the overview of. No, that's it. He was Dick Grayson though. He's in the red sweater, but they gave him Robin colors.
Nice.
They gave him Robin colors on. He's walking a dog because there's all the dog charity stuff. He raises like the Great Dane. So there's a really sweet tribute to him. Now, again, they simply go through here. So the Supergirl episode was the thing with the Burt Ward and basically set up what the crisis is going to be. That was solid enough. Then we get the Batwoman, which, to keep it simple, there's some
of the stuff that was done with Batman, but you really enjoyed seeing Conroy.
Yes, I love seeing Conroy, but then my excitement got diluted very, very fast with what they did with him. Let's say there's just some rant-worthy treatment of Batman stuff in part 2, and they basically, the DCW or the Arrowverse, as you like to call it, they're kind of dropping the ball with Batman in that universe. I'll say that much right now. The Superman stuff, however, I think all the Superman stuff throughout has been really solid, though. I think it's been on the money. Some people are peeved about one of the particular cameos, but more on that later. Regardless, part 3, though, is the best one so far. They ended kind of like the break, the kind of the midpoint of it all on a high note. In that part 3 was the best. That was the Flash episode. And as you know, the Flash really gets the heart of the matter. They're really kind of filled with all the emotional stuff.
For my money, definitely the series that I would consider watching.
Oh yeah. So it's let me put it this way. So basically, all the really great moving stuff, all like the big high of high moments so far. That was in part three. Part three is the best part of it. Ends on kind of a very. It seems like they're going very Infinity War Endgame. They're kind of chasing Infinity War and Endgame with this crisis. It seems, but they're doing it instead of like through like a year of waiting. We're doing it through like well, essentially it's a year of waiting because we're waiting until after New Year's. So guess it's a similar thing. I don't know. Point being, crisis so far so good. A few bumps along the way, but we'll see if they can pull it off.
Okay.
All right.
Right. Oh God, Mr. Robot Dragon. I personally think Mr. Robot absolutely pulled it off. In my humble opinion, I loved the finale. I don't care if it's polarizing. I personally think that it's just like it's Esmail's vision just kind of stuck to landing, man. And it's like I think it tracks. It makes sense from beginning to end with the series. It adds like a whole other context to the series. I think it's great. I think you're a little bit more on the fence about it, though.
Well, overall, now the season's completely wrapped up, so I think Mr. Robot, I think it goes big from the start of season four. Like we go big, we kill off certain characters. We're killing a lot of characters this season, folks.
Yeah, we never got that Tyrell Wellick resurrection, did we?
No, we did, but it was it was an ambiguous death, though. I mean, who could tell? But honestly, for me, so season four overall, I think we go big in the beginning, which I really liked. I do feel there's a kind of a lull in the middle until the Vera stuff, until Vera comes back into the fray. I think there's a lull in that time. Pacing, I think you even echoed the same. Didn't you feel like there's a little bit of pacing issues?
I did.
So basically, our character centric episodes, like the White Rose episode, and then the Vera stuff. Those are kind of our big kind of jolts of life within the season. And then basically Vera on, we're in a good swing of things. Then we get to the finale, which I love. Part one of the finale, no question. Part two is good. I just feel in the initial viewing it went over my head a little bit. And I would argue the only point I argue with folks without going into all the nitty gritty, I guess, is that I feel I feel they kind of did what season one did, where we throw a lot of reveals at you towards the very end of the season, and it was a little bumpy in the first season, and here I feel it had the same effect. But ultimately, as we saw how it worked out the rest of the series, bumpy as it may be, it was solid and it did complement the series. So it's a solid ending nonetheless. And again, I think basically when you reevaluate, you rewatch it, I think it holds up better. I'll say that much. But at the point, season four was good. I don't think if we've ever quite measured up the season two. Season two might be the best season, Mr. Robot.
Really, in your opinion, season two? Wow.
Well, wait a minute. Sorry, I want to make sure I got the right season. Yeah, that's at the very least. I know the first half of. Wait a minute. Here's
season
the thing.
Two, the prison season.
Yeah, that's the season I thought. I love the prison stuff. Remember, was Dom in season two?
Yes.
That's the frustrating thing because I could easily say season two is the best, but then Dom's in the season. Like, oh darn it!
With Dom, there was really no payoff at all to the Darlene stuff.
That's what I'm saying. Because basically, outside of Dom,
the whole airport episode was just kind of pointless. Outside of the whole, like, did you get on the plane?
I feel season two is really tightly plotted. Season two really is really strong for me with that whole the review we have with the whole time with the prison stuff, and then we get into we have the prison. We have the whole Tyrell Wellick thing. That's a really great runner through that season. It complements the end of the first season.
I'll watch season two with my dad very soon, so I'll let you know about that.
Yeah, I think I'll do that because it's been a while since I've seen season. I remember being really well plotted, but it has been a while. And Dom,
I've rewatched season one like 3 or 4 times, so I really don't feel like I need to rewatch that again. But I'm definitely planning on doing a season 2 through 4 rewatch.
I know Bobby kind of stole season 3, but I don't think we're there.
He really did. He really did.
All right, anywho, so point being, Mr. Robot season 4, solid. A little bit of lull in there, but I think the ending's worth it, folks. Definitely check it out.
All right. Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. This is just I can't really. I've tried to get into this show, Dragon. I don't know. I don't know what's not doing it for me. I've watched a couple episodes, but I really love it.
I adore this show, man. Initially I was a doubter, man. I was thinking, how can this show be as praised as it is? It's getting all the Emmys, it's getting all the attention. It's Amazon's poster girl, And I'm looking at it, it's like, and I finally watched like a while back when we did this, one of the memoirs I watched, and I binged through it, the first two seasons that they had up. And going into season three, man, I was indoctrinated to, and going into season three, which I was very excited for. Amazingly, it still got it. I'll admit, compared to the other two seasons, little bumpy at the start, not in a negative way, just in the sense that we have some arduous stuff you have to get out of the way of, because there's like the enemy of season two is kind of in our space in this new season. Sophie Lennon. Sophie Lennon is kind of this sort of like a big name gimmick comedian, like a comedian with a catchphrase. Let's call her that sort of thing. Like she has a stage show. She basically imagine if you had like a less classy version of Jackie Gleason, kind of like it was only during they didn't have a TV show, just like literally just did like live appearances. That's Jane Lynch plays her. Jane Lynch is wonderful, by the way. Jane Lynch is great.
Uh-huh.
As you have this character, and the idea is that at the end of season two, going into three, Alex Borstein's character, essentially, she's the manager, and she is Susie Meyerson. Susie's basically representing two clients. She's representing Midge, who's Mrs. Maisel, and the Jane Lynch character. And essentially, these two characters obviously don't get along because essentially they have kind of a little bit of a feud going on here. So they basically have to get through that in the first two episodes, which again, we get through it rather quickly. It's a secret in the first season, in the first episode in the season, episode two, we kind of blow past. It's like, okay, well, we've moved past it quite fast, and a few things with the parents in the first two episodes. Basically, after those first two episodes, we get back on the like a straight line going forward, and it's great.
Okay.
I will say this, like the husband, I love Joel Maisel. Joel Maisel is a character. I hate adultery in shows. I really do. I hate adultery in the sense of we have constantly in TV and in television shows, we have these characters who have these beautiful wives, and they always cheat on them. I just never get it. I never do, as silly as it sounds. And basically the whole premise of Marvelous Mrs. Maisel is that he cheats on his wife and walks out on her, and she gets the blame for it by her Jewish parents. That's the idea. That's the whole game. It's like the guilt of the family. Like, you ruined the status quo. This is all your fault. Well, obviously it's not her fault. And the whole thing is like, I never in a million years would have imagined I would love Joel Maisel the way I do. And that's the thing. Wow. Like there is a wonderful redemption arc that I can't explain to you, man. That again, like the first season, again, he's irredeemable at the very start of the season.
Totally.
But again, in season three, I'm so on his side because he's trying to build his own club. And he's absolutely wonderful. So again, the point is the show just keeps getting better and better. I mean, a little rocky in the start, but it adjusts itself like right quick, and it's great. Basically, this season's the comedian on tour.
Okay, cool. Dragon, it sounds like a show I would like. I don't know what it is about it that doesn't grab me so far.
I mean, watch it for Shaloub alone, man. Shaloub's the bomb.
Right. Okay, so Eddie Murphy made a long-awaited return to SNL, and Dragon, oh my god, this is like when we always talk about Just Giglet kind of like, overshadowing SNL. Man, SNL, this is one of the best episodes of SNL I've seen in a long time. Keeping in mind, I don't really watch SNL unless there's a host on that I'm really interested in, like I watched the Chappelle episode, for example. But Dragon, I adored this episode. I thought it was just like a great sort of like, it was not only a trip down memory lane in terms of like, re-exploring a lot of Murphy's old characters, but it was putting Murphy in a modern day context. And, like, of course, we got the kind of the controversial Bill Cosby jokes in there, which I appreciated, like, imagine me, Eddie Murphy, being the family man and Bill Cosby, So that was all good. I thought his opening monologue, as controversial as some people wanted to make it out to be, I thought it was hilarious. I thought it was a great return to form for him. I really want to see an Eddie Murphy Netflix comedy special. Please give it to me. As far as we don't have time to go through every single skit, of course, a lot of great ones. Dragon, I got to say my two favorite ones, Black Jeopardy with Velvet Jones. That was amazing. And then, of course, Dragon, I think the fan favorite Murphy character, the one that everyone knows, the one that everyone quotes, Gumby, damn it.
Yeah, Gumby.
That was such a joy. That was like Gumby coming on to Weekend Update And what I loved about that skit in particular, Dragon, is that you could tell that Murphy was just so happy to be doing that character again and just so into it. And he was kind of breaking a little bit. He was smiling. He was like, he kind of had a shitting grin when he was doing it. And then, like, the audience would kind of, like, laugh at him breaking character. And then he'd be like, oh. He'd, like, point to the audience like, no laughing. I'm Gumby, damn it. So there's like a little bit of audience interaction there with the Gumby sketch. I love the Gumby sketch.
Yep. It's Gumby and Mr. Robinson's Neighborhood. Those are the standouts.
Of course. How could I forget Robinson's Neighborhood? Oh my God. Yeah. So good. So good. All right. Let's see. What's next?
Next would be the Confession Killer.
Okay, this has been kind of like on my Netflix, like, hey, you want to watch this, right? And I'm like, yeah, I don't really feel like I'm in the mood, but Dragon, sell me on it.
All right, Confession Killer. So this is about Henry Lee Lucas. Does the name ring any bells for you?
It sounds vaguely familiar.
Well, it might be, because it's linked to a very famous movie I assume you've seen, but we'll see. Okay, so the point is, Henry Lee Lucas is basically... This it's a limited series. I think it's like maybe 4 or 5 episodes.
Mm-hmm.
It's Henry Lee Lucas. So this is kind of a cautionary tale in confessions. That's what the kind of the sell of this is. Famously, Henry Lee Lucas confessed to minimum 100 to 300. There's some people speculate 3,000. Let's just stick with 1 to 300 possible murders.
Oh, geez.
And this is kind of a sequel to the Ted Bundy tapes via the reporter at the end of Ted Bundy tapes. In the Ted Bundy tapes, famously, Ted Bundy, in kind of like during his death row kind of stint, Hugh Dinesworth, I believe his name is Hugh Dinesworth or Dinesworth. They have this reporter, this journalist who interviewed Ted Bundy and got Ted Bundy to confess to the 30 bodies. And this guy, he's brought in here, and he's kind of the guy who frames our events here. He kind of gives us the play-by-play of, he had interviewed Henry Lee Lucas, so, and kind of like he chatted with him along with the sheriff. The sheriff was kind of the other guy in the room, and basically the Henry Lucas, he would confess and kind of get all chatty with these two guys, and the whole premise. Basically, the consensus is that this guy was kind of a hick who wanted attention, and the more he confessed, the more attention he got. And he kind of read it as he'd befriend the sheriff who he was giving the information. Like, he would be kept out of a jail cell or like out of a proper prison cell so long as he kept making himself useful. So that's why he would keep confessing on and on and on. And basically, the analysis here is like what we're looking, of course, confessions, stuff like making a murder and everything we look at today with a different venue, with a different viewpoint. So basically, the whole premise of this thing is it's the scrutiny of confessions today. It's basically scrutiny of confessions today through the lens of then, where they were eager to close cases just for the sake of, hey, we've closed cases. This is really good for optics. As far as the Texas Rangers were concerned back then, this is like, hey, this guy just keeps talking. We can close all these cases. We're all good there. And here's the link where you might know this guy from. So, from what I understand, Henry Lee Lucas was the basis for Henry: Portrait of a Serial Killer.
I have not seen that movie
with Michael Rooker.
I know it's a Michael Rooker movie. I need to see it, but I have not.
That's the one that made Rooker's career, so you might want to check that out at some point.
Yeah, I should. You're right, I should.
Anywho, so point being, so yeah, it is quite interesting, and especially I'm saying based on like how confessions are viewed today in that sense, it's very interesting, kind of more like shocking in the sense like, oh God, no one questioned him then, not a soul truly kind of questioned him then, and it was just kind of. It's quite shocking and it's quite interesting. And again, definitely a good follow-up to the Ted Bundy tapes in the way we frame things. I love that we're kind of slowly building a catalog of all these interconnected.
Dragon, we're building a Netflix true crime cinematic universe.
In a sense, yeah.
NFTCCU.
I don't know if that one's going to quite roll off the tongue, but let's Speaking of true crime.
Yeah, speaking of something that would like fit right into this guy could be like the Thanos of the Netflix true crime cinematic universe. Oh my God, Dragon, don't F with cats, man. Oh, you are right. This was, to me, the documentary of the year. I don't care if If it's a TV series, whatever, it's 3 1-hour episodes. As far as I'm concerned, it's like a 3-hour and some change documentary. I was riveted, Dragon. This, I knew I wanted to watch this all in one go, so that's why it took me a little bit of time to, to find a 3-hour slot to sit down and watch it. But man, Dragon, when I did, I was just top to bottom riveted. This thing is, wow. I mean, I truly do think it is the documentary of the year for me.
See, I knew you were gonna like this. Yeah, it was so surprisingly compelling because I already had a solid sell. I was thinking like how, because here's the thing, I've seen like kind of parodies of the true crime documentary on Netflix. There's this thing called God, I think it's American Vandal. American Vandal. I didn't watch it all.
Check that out. I've heard good things.
Well, I've heard good things, and I tried checking it out, and I saw, okay, it's a farce. I don't know if I'm gonna pay it. My friends keep telling me like you should check it out, and I've contemplated it, but it just keeps unselling me each time I keep wanting to go back to the well. That's a taste thing. There's nothing against the quality of that show, so I can't really speak to it. I'm just saying it's more like I think this kind of does what I wanted to see with that. We're taking an unusual premise, but there's actual. That's the thing I always wanted to see with American Vandal. We're taking something ridiculous, but applying kind of true stakes to it. And now this is a serious matter. Don't get me wrong, but I'm saying it's like we're taking the cat video, the sacred online cat video, which in itself is silly, but we're adding very severe stakes to it. Basically, we have some sicko killing cats. And this leads to kind of a kind of this. We have essentially kind of like this
a manhunt, essentially.
Yes, kind of a manhunt. Basically, kind of this kind of grassroots kind of Facebook effort. Basically, kind of people just kind of like coming together and kind of forming a kind of an amateur kind of investigation.
Fault of Our Stars author John Green.
Yeah,
I couldn't resist. I did like that guy, John Green. I like that John Green and Deanna are they do kind of form that sort of link throughout the movie, and that is kind of a good kind of like view into like sort of their questioning, like, oh my God, is what we're doing right? Are we egging him on? And Dragon, there were so many points in this movie. This is just an excellent like murder mystery because I was once it got to the turning point that we're not going to give any major spoilers for this thing, folks, but there's kind of like a midway turning point that makes you pretty much question everything that came before. Dragon, once it got there, it kind of got me hook, line, and sinker, my friend.
Me, there are two moments. Just to dance around, there are two moments in this thing that had me kind of utterly jaw-dropped and in shock. If I recall correctly, the end of the first episode, right? The end of the first episode is that pretty like kind of like chilling moment. Am I remembering correctly?
Yeah, I think so. I think you're right.
Yeah, like a chilling moment, like a sheerly chilling moment at the end of the first episode, and then basically kind of our ultimate reveal by episode 3 is like it's something you have to see to believe. Like, are you kidding me? He did that because of this, and it's like, oh my God,
it's crazy. It's like it's such a truth is stranger than fiction scenario. Absolutely. You cannot make this shit up.
This is this great moment where you kind of jaw dropping again. Like it lines up with certain shots of a thing that you've seen before, and it kind of recontextualizes. And it's like, oh my!
It plays out exactly like a David Fincher movie or something like that in the way the reveals work.
Mm-hmm. It's very interesting. So seriously, as silly as it might sound, folks, don't F with cats. Very compelling.
And I love how the cat community, like, that Facebook group, I love how they're not, I love how there's an air of moral ambiguity to them as well.
And for any who might be afraid, we know we don't see the murder of the cats, but we definitely paint a...
I gotta admit, Dragon, when I first started, I was pretty terrified about that.
Don't worry, folks, like, we're not, it paints a picture, mind you, but you don't see anything.
Yeah.
All
right, next up.
The movies that made us.
Okay. I thought you already watched this.
No. Well, there was... this is the thing, to you. There was... that was the toys that made us. It's the same guys who did this.
Yeah, I know, but I know what it is. I thought you'd already seen it.
I thought I sworn I... When's the...
Well, whatever. Just it's fine. It's fine. Go ahead.
Okay, well, regardless, keep it simple. Basically, it's a spin-off of the toys that made us. You had You had kind of the first installment, the first season, if you will. We have like Dirty Dancing,
Before
Home.
we were talking about like the Home Alone having like a really compelling backstory and it barely getting made and everything. I don't know if it was on air or
That's
not.
what
I'm
I think it
sorry.
was off air. That's what I'm. That's what.
Okay. My bad. Go ahead.
Okay, regardless. So basically, it's a spin-off of the Toys that Made Us, really well put together kind of documentaries on pop culture. Only in this case, we're actually going to the movies instead of kind of the toy lines. In some cases, inspire or spun off of movies. In some cases, we have Dirty Dancing. We have Dirty Dancing has an interesting story on Swayze in that. Let's see. We have Home Alone. Of course, that's probably the best of the season and very informative. You get to see Chris Columbus and John Hughes. They definitely have kind of like a huge kind of like influence on that one. Again, like you always hear the name Chris Columbus, you don't really know the guy until this movie. I really got to know the guy in this. Really nice. A little bit of Ghostbusters, and basically the two standouts are Home Alone and Die Hard. Die Hard being basically the Christmas ones specifically, which I'm pretty sure they had to release in December, right? Because of the selling of it. Regardless, so we have Die Hard. That to me is the other standout because the interesting thing about that one is the note one thing is that you kind of forget how out of left field Bruce Willis was in the casting of Die Hard, where people were very skeptical of him in an action movie. That's how early it was in Bruce Willis's career. Like the only thing he had going on was Moonlighting, which is very much a comedy. Well, kind of a comedy romance sort of, you know what I mean. But I liked it. I liked it a great deal. I'd highly recommend, especially if you like the Toys That Made Us. This is absolutely up your alley.
Okay. All right, time to get into the December movies. What you've been waiting for, folks. Rise of Skywalker, a movie that the entire internet agrees on. Am I right?
Well, of course.
But in all seriousness, Dragon, I feel like the discourse around this movie is like it's a lot less hostile than it is with The Last Jedi. I feel like people do disagree with it, but I don't necessarily feel like it's as political. Are you getting that vibe?
Honestly, I guess, but here's the thing. I keep hearing both ends of the spectrum. I keep hearing the love and I keep hearing the hate, man. I got to tell you, it's like, it's poignant, but it keeps going back and forth. I mean, for me, I'm kind of in the middle with it, where I'm more on the lighter side of things here. I do love I like the movie. It is divisive. It's flawed, but a solid ending to the new trilogy, where I live for the high of high moments in that movie. I love the high of high moments in that movie. And honestly, I'm coming more on like the people who love the movie in the sense of like, those moments are really good. I'm finding more things I like about it amongst, stewing on hearing other people like, yeah, and hearing Kevin Smith kind of go on about it. I'm like saying, oh man, he pointed out some things I kind of forgot about. Like, yeah, that is really good too. And hearing just kind of like a lot of people, it's bringing up a conversation I'd like to think is more civil than The Last Jedi. Last Jedi is just kind of polarizing for the sake of, you're either wrong, it's bringing up like all the vitriol of like, this doesn't have as much vitriol, but it definitely feels like people are coming down more solidly on its side. Like saying, we're at the end. It didn't save it. That's kind of like, I think it's more direct, but maybe not as pointed, let's call it.
So yeah, I too liked Rise of Skywalker. I do think it's probably the weakest of the three in the sequel trilogy just because of how batshit plot is. The Palpatine stuff basically makes no sense. They really give no explanation for it at all. But Dragon, I feel like with Rise of Skywalker, what it does right and what it does better than any of the three in the sequel trilogy is it gets character dynamics down, man.
It does, and that's the thing. So Chris Terrio wrote this, and I got to tell you, I was looking back on it just for novelty's sake, and I got to tell you, Chris Terrio, he's had a terrible batting average since Argo. He really has.
Oh God,
Chris Terrio, basically, he's just kind of
Argo, fuck yourself, indeed.
Pretty much. And that's the thing. I just feel like this. He's kind of the curse upon the film. Chris is kind of a curse upon films at this point in terms of plotting. With all the movies you think about it, he's done all the DCU movies that didn't do well.
Batman versus Superman.
He did Batman v Superman. Okay, didn't do Suicide Squad. That's another. The point being, he did Batman v Superman. He did Justice League, which basically all the things that have like fingerprints of somebody who like took the reins who probably shouldn't have. That's kind of Chris Terrio usually, apparently. So he's been kind of cursing these movies, so to speak. That's the only logic I have for in regards to the plotting. And honestly, it just feels like overall this movie, I think there's a good movie here. It just could have used another draft or a little less Chris Terrio, one of the two. But again, as you said, Tiki, like Ray and Kylo, that's the story. That element of the movie is really
Yeah,
compelling.
Ray and
It's
Kylo.
strong.
I really think the mistake here, I'll say it again, is I really think that Kylo had enough weight to carry this movie as the main bad guy and still have a satisfying redemption at the end.
Yeah.
Like, I honestly think that the Wild West standoff between Ray and Kylo, I feel like that's getting overshadowed because of the plot thing with Chewie that happens in the middle of that, and everyone's talking about how silly that thing is. But honestly, Dragon, just like I love the tension of that scene where, you know, like Finn is looking out at Rey, like walking towards the walking out into the horizon as Kylo's TIE fighter is coming in. It's, oh man, I mean, it really does there is genuine built up tension between the two.
Yeah.
All right.
All right, real quick, we have a comment we should shout out. We can advertise our thing here.
Okay.
From one of your favorites from Claude Coringa.
Claude Coringa. Okay, what is your favorite film of 2019 and favorite film of the decade? Claude, let me just tell you, we're going to be doing a top 100 of the decade podcast. And that's going to probably span a couple, at least 2 or 3 months. It's going to be like a 5-part series, 100 through 80, 80 through 60, etc. Claude, as of right now, I'm telling you, I'm leaning towards Social Network as my number 1. But there's going to be a lot of deliberation between now and then. So right now, I'm leaning Social Network. I'm leaning Social Network as my number 1 of the 2010s. As for 2019, as of right now, I'm leaning Parasite. But it could change. I've still got a couple other things I need to see. I need to reevaluate my list. I need to kind of put a couple things that I've seen recently into perspective. So that could also change. But right now, as I'm sitting here talking, I think Parasite is probably my number 1 of 2019. And for the record, I think Parasite has a shot at being among my favorite films of the decade when we get there. Anyway,
and in regards to 2019, we if everything goes according to plan, Sunday we should be having our top. We're going to do our top 25 of 2019. Either Sunday or if something goes wrong, probably Monday. But let's be optimistic and say Sunday, top 25 2019, right?
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, so and you'll find out all of our answers and our rankings then. And of course, again, the whole the decades thing, it'll be kind of an ongoing sort of project, our own little limited series, let's call it.
So give the viewers a hint, Dragon. Where are you leaning?
Well, I'll tell you, man. There's I'm leaning towards certain sequels for my top spots. Yeah, I'm leaning towards some sequels of this year for my top spots.
Okay, for 2019, and then what about best of the decade?
God, best of the decade.
That's an epic endeavor, friend.
It is. I mean, it's a question of
especially because we're working with 100 list.
We are. That's the thing. I just want to. It's gonna be. Look, I think I'm leaning towards the Marvel direction, but I don't know. It might be. We'll see. I think I'm leaning towards.
Okay, Dragon. If your top 10 is all MCU movies, I'm gonna call you the hell out for that. All right.
It's not gonna be all MCU movies. I said
it can be 5 MCU movies. Just don't let it be more than 5 MCU.
Well, first of all, who are you to tell me when?
All right, you're right. By all means, if you want to have like 7 MCU movies,
I don't think it will be, but I'm just saying, come on.
I mean, don't get me wrong. Certain MCU movies have a strong chance of getting into my top 10. The Guardians movies in particular, but.
Well, it also has an excellent suggestion about doing a podcast on the favorite shows of 2019 or the 2010.
Oh yeah, I mean, the thing is, I don't know how much I've watched. Like, I know there's a lot of good stuff out there that neither of us have watched, but
Well, the problem is, I know one thing. If we do 2010s, Breaking Bad is off the table because it started. We have to go by when these shows start. So obviously, Breaking Bad's a
that's fine. I don't mind that Breaking Bad's off the table.
I just want to say for posterity's sake, something like Breaking Bad. I believe Mad Men as well. Like they'd be off the table. So.
Honestly, as of now, Claude, I'd lean towards The Leftovers for that. But granted, I'm 1 episode into Watchmen. I'm very impressed with Watchmen so far. Watchmen could eclipse Leftovers. We'll just have to see.
Now, again, for the TV show thing, because again, we may or may not do that. I'd love to say we could do it, but again, we're kind of I can't make any promises with that. I'll tell you now, Claude. Probably Daredevil.
That's a solid choice.
Daredevil or Better Call Saul would be
Better Call Saul as well. I mean, God, yeah.
Those are the two front runners for me.
I mean, let's throw it out there as well, Dragon. How can we not at least bring up Bates Motel?
That's what I'm saying. It's in the running, but I'm just saying
those are a fan favorite. It's a fan favorite.
Yeah, it is the fan favorite.
It's not like the most artistic or like what it's not like the most like well plotted thing in the world. But man, we had a lot of fun with Bates Motel.
And off the top of my head, the top three would be those three right there. It'd be Daredevil, Better Call Saul, and Bates Motel. And in order, it's just gonna be so hard to rank, but it's probably gonna be in the order I said.
All right, this one's easy. Favorite cartoon of the 2010s? Gravity Falls, no question. Dragon, it's not committed to yet, even though it's on Disney Plus.
God, cartoon of the 2010s. There's a lot of
Dragon.
What?
I said it's right there for you, Dragon. It's only 40-hour episodes.
I know it's right there. I know there's a lot of good contenders for the 2010s. I mean, God, it's maybe I think Legend of Korra might be. I don't know. I don't know off the top of my head right now. I'm not sure.
I would also throw out a dark horse mention to Over the Garden Wall. Oh my God, I love Over the Garden Wall.
I know I'm forgetting something, but I don't know. I mean, Young Justice. Anyway, yeah, we gotta get back on point. All right.
So Star Wars has Kylo Ren. You know what else has Kylo Ren?
Marriage Story.
How's that for a transition? Oh
yeah,
man.
Yep.
All right, so Marriage Story, in all honesty, this is a contender for one of my, I think this is probably going to be in my top 5 of 2019. Probably. I think this is just a very performance-driven movie. It's a very writer-driven movie. I love Noah Baumbach. Dragon, you may or may not have seen a Noah Baumbach movie this month that I recommended to you. We shall see if it's a mystery movie of yours. But Noah Baumbach's been a filmmaker I followed for a while. To me, he kind of represents sort of the old school new Hollywood films that do kind of center around love and marriage and everything. Stuff like the Kramer versus Kramers or the Annie Halls of the world. And man, I think this is Noah Baumbach's best movie by a pretty considerable margin. I think this is one of the best romantic dramas of the decade. I mean, this thing is just yet another 2019 movie that absolutely floored me, Dragon. I've never been in a serious committed relationship for more than a few months at a time. And even those are few and far between. So I don't really know what this is like on a firsthand level. But man, this movie just really draws you in and really makes you emphasize with the characters on a really core fundamental way. What I love about this movie is that it's such a good balance of it's neither of the two leads' fault, but they both have blame in the situation. And at the end of the day, they're really just chess pieces for the lawyers to have their game. The lawyers do treat it as a game, complete with lunch breaks where they're going to break down the fancy sandwiches that they get, which is probably my favorite moment in the movie, for the record.
Yeah, Marriage Story, man, against Netflix and Baumbach's stab at Kramer versus Kramer. That was the first thing I said to you when Marriage Story was, oh my God, they're doing Kramer versus Kramer. It's awesome. For the next generation. It's got a great cast. It has a really even distribution amongst the two parents, empathy-wise, which I feel is a really strong component of the movie. Our guys are both good guys and bad guys at certain points in this movie, which, again, is kind of the ugly business of divorce so well captured.
And there are some scenes that just kind of have your ass clenching in ways that horror movies have not done to me this decade.
It's very it's a very honest and tragic. Basically, let me put it this way: it's very honest and tragic yet heartwarming. if that makes any sense. Because again, it's tense in those moments, but again, all that stemming from the honesty, and I think the ending's rather tragic, but again, it has a really heartwarming PS to it all that really kind of saves it in a sense, gives it that buoyancy. Again, like, oh my god, look what happens to Adam Driver.
I love the ending. The ending of this movie, much like the ending of Squid and the Whale, which is one of my favorite film endings. I think this ending is just as strong. I love how full circle it all is.
I'd seriously recommend Marriage Story to a lot of people out there. I mean, it's on Netflix. Why aren't you watching it, man? Give it some business.
You know what I wouldn't recommend to anyone?
I'm going to say you're going to go the opposite of a certain show we covered here. Instead of don't F with cats, you're going to...
Oh, no, it's true, Dragon. Seriously, don't F with cats. Dragon, please explain to the audience how excited I was for this goddamn movie.
Folks, for some reason, my compatriot here, despite everyone and their mother telling him, "What are you, insane? Don't see cats, man. What are you doing? Don't just see Star Wars or see it again. No, just don't see it."
I already saw Star Wars twice. I don't need to see Star Wars 3 times.
Well, I'm just saying, and you could have, you say, "Hey, he's in 1971." Point being, all these other things you could have spent your time with. Instead, cats. I want to see cats. Because it's going to be ridiculous. It's going to be so bad. It's good, right? Because that's a reason to see a movie.
No, it's not. So, well, first of all, yes, it is a reason to go see a movie, but this is like a first act of a so bad it's good movie, and then 2 acts of sheer boring. All right, that's what Cats is. The first act of this movie is fun. All right, the first act of this movie is just pure what the fuck insanity. But here's the thing, Dragon. The cats and all the grotesque CGI glory that everyone's talking about, you get battered into submission and you just fucking accept it by the time the second act of this thing rolls around, all right? And by the time the second act of this thing rolls around, all the biggest what the fuck moments are behind you, and you're just left with, like, these really boring, really long songs about all the cats just introducing themselves one after another. It's not shot well. The scale's all off. Obviously, the CGI is horrendous. Dragon, it's just, there's no real energy to it, and that's what really bummed me out about it. For a movie that looked so vibrant in terms of, like, what the fuck is going on with the visuals, it's very, very by the numbers in terms of how it presents the Broadway show. Like, in some ways, I feel like just watching a filmed version of the Broadway show is way more engaging than this, because at least then you get kind of like, you get to see the the actual actors doing the dance moves and stuff, and not just the CGI horror monstrosity that's kind of like animated onto real dancers. Let's see, Dragon. I'm trying to think of an actor that I actually really liked in this movie. I will say that freaking what's his name? Corden. Yeah. He's trying, like, but he I don't know. He does
James
have
Corden. I feel so bad for him. He was the positive guy in the room. Yeah, let's do Cats. It'll be fun. I just know it's like, oh, James, I love your enthusiasm. Man.
You know who the serious man in the room is, Dragon?
Idris Elba?
No. Oh, God. Idris Elba is one of the least serious guys in the room. Idris Elba is not taking this shit seriously at all.
Ian McKellen?
Yes. Dragon, Ian McKellen, I can't even tell you. I think he has the most boring song in the whole movie, and that's kind of why I'm mixed on this. But Ian McKellen, he is just on another level entirely in terms of, like, the method, like, meow, meow, I'm going to be a cat. I mean, Dragon, he like vocalizes the cat noises and is just like licking himself. It's, oh my God. It's Rebel Wilson, I feel like, is going to be the source of all the memes and everything. I showed you the one clip with the cockroaches that I hope is still burned in your soul.
God. I know one thing for me. Honestly, I was never going to see Cats when I saw that trailer because everybody was watching that trailer to see like you can't be able to see this to believe this, man. And just the moment where I saw Rebel Wilson Cat, I was like, okay, even if I were somewhat interested, even if I were somewhat going to entertain the notion, Rebel Wilson Cats were okay. I'm out. I'm out.
Touch me, it's so easy to leave me.
Okay, but let me ask you this: did you see the lack of CGI in certain parts?
Yeah,
Because apparently
yeah.
you were the lucky guy. You got to see the imperfect version.
Yeah, I got to see the imperfect version, and it was very imperfect.
Yeah, I heard Mark Bernard has.
Here's the thing. I did see this with a crowd of old people that just kind of sat there shell-shocked and took it, right? Like, I almost felt bad for them. I wanted to see this in a crowd of, like, drunk people my own age, all right? That would have been a much better theater-going experience for this type of movie. And if I was in that type of theater environment, I feel like I would like this movie-going experience a lot better than I did. And with that being said, if this movie does go on to be like one of those like Rocky Horror style midnight screening type movies, Dragon, I will make a point to go to one of those because I do think this movie does have a shit ton of potential to be a lot of fun with a live audience that's into it. I just had the misfortune of not having an audience that was into it at all. So, okay, Claude Karina has a very interesting question here, Dragon. I'm going to throw it to you first. Standout actor and actress of 2019.
Actor off the top of my head is probably it's going to be between Tom Hanks and Joaquin Phoenix. Maybe Tom Hanks. I'm probably going to give it to Tom Hanks because not only was he, again for Mr. Rogers, but also he did a really good turn as Woody this year. So let's give it to Tom Hanks.
Okay, for actress, Dragon, I'm going to go with a really unconventional pick just because nobody's talking. Well, you know what? I'm going to mention an unconventional pick, which is Octavia Spencer for Ma, which is a movie that no one's talking about, but Dragon, you know me. I love that movie.
I actually Joshua Thomas brought up Ma recently.
Really? Oh my God.
Yeah, I told him it was Octavia Spencer. I forgot her name. I said, oh yeah, you're talking about Ma with Octavia Spencer.
Dragon, that movie's probably going to end up on my top 25, and Octavia Spencer is like the reason for it. She is such a fun horror movie villain.
I watched that ridiculous scene you told me about, by the way.
That ridiculous scene? Which one?
Oh, you got me, Ma.
Oh, yeah, right. You got me, Ma.
Ridiculous.
God. Okay, let's see. But other than that, Florence Pugh. Just Florence Pugh. Florence fucking Pugh. Oh my God, that woman is having a moment. Fighting with My Family. Midsommar. I haven't seen Little Women yet. I'm going to see Little Women before I do my best, before I rank my best of the year. But Florence Pugh is like the standout actress of the year for me.
For me,
in terms of best actor, Sandler, man. I'm all about the Sandman. I'm all about Sandler.
We'll get there.
Best performance of the year.
Female would probably be I forget her name, but the girl from Knives Out is a contender. It's between her and I think Rose Salazar did a really great job in Aaliyah this year. I really liked. I think Rose Salazar might be an underdog, but she really impressed me this year.
Okay.
All right. Okay. Yeah. So let's see. So Cats consent.
What about live theater experience?
I think he means live audience experience, Tiki.
I'm sorry, live audience experience.
I'm saying because I have nothing to say about live theater experience.
Okay, I'm sorry.
I
think you and I probably are going to have the same one, Dragon. I'd be shocked if you had a different one. I mean, it's got to be Endgame, right?
I think you mean Claude. Do you mean like on the live streams, or that's what I'm saying? Do you mean like live? That's what I'm asking.
I think he means best experience with an audience in the theater. I think that's what he means.
Well, that's what I'm sorry, Steve. That's why I was questioning what you said because I thought he meant the other thing. Okay, but yeah, theater experience.
It's got to be Endgame. I mean, that's like the obvious answer. Come on.
Yeah, I'm sure if it's in that question, then absolutely it's Endgame. Yeah. No. I mean, in terms of my experience in a movie, though, I mean, Joker is a contender as well. Like not contender. In terms of like a live audience, that's Endgame easily. But I'm saying if we're talking about like personal theater experience.
Also, another one to highlight is definitely Jay and Silent Bob reboot.
Yeah.
I would say that is actually probably my favorite. Like, I'm not a huge fan of that movie. I like it, but I think the live audience was like the best part of that movie.
Yeah. Yeah, I said in the
Okay.
movies. Yeah, you were right, Tiki. All right. Okay. So I think we've said
Also,
enough.
one more standout actor for 2019, and I have to highlight both Robert Pattinson and Willem Dafoe for The Lighthouse.
Right.
All right, go ahead.
I think we've said our piece on cats. Not
I'm trying. Yes, I think the internet as a whole can say its piece on cats. I think we've talked enough about cats.
Yeah. All right. Okay. So let's move on to something on Netflix. I saw
Ground.
Six Underground. So this, of course, this is the Michael Bay movie that Ryan Reynolds did recently, and essentially, we give Six Underground is a movie where we give Michael Bay a solid writing team and a solid lead in Rhett Reese and Paul Wernick, of course, the Deadpool writers. They did the story on this. And Ryan Reynolds is basically have like the triangle is complete, man. Unfortunately, no Tim Miller in the mix, but we have the triangle there, man. You've got a trifecta of win right there. Unfortunately, so in case you're not aware, Tiki, the story of Six Underground is Ryan Reynolds. Basically, all the characters' names are numbers, so they're the six. So Ryan Reynolds is number one.
I was aware of this. Yes, I knew that much. So it's like kids next door, Dragon. It's like adult kids next door.
Sure, if you will, yeah, sure, yeah. But imagine if they had the potential of dying, though. That's the thing. But yes, so you have Ryan Reynolds. He's one. Now he's a tech billionaire who wants to take out he basically wants to do good in the world. In this case, the mission of the movie here. They said they want to do sequels to this. They want to make a franchise out of this. Given the performance of this thing, I doubt that's still going to happen. But it'd be on Netflix, so maybe it's possible. I don't know. Regardless, basically the mission of the movie is he wants to take out this ruthless dictator and replace him with his kinder brother. That's kind of the main mission of the movie. Free the people of this nation, and he has a team of all numbers. Again, essentially six. One of them gets killed off, so we kind of replace him with a different nine. But we don't get, like, they retire the number though, so there's no the numbers. We retire the number. So all these guys, the premise is all the numbers, all the people on the team, including Reynolds, they've all faked their deaths. That's why they're numbers. So they've all like erased their identities and gone off the grid. And Ryan Reynolds, being the smart guy that is, he's found them and he's recruited them for a team to do good in the world on the down low. And say the least, I think the highlights are again Ryan Reynolds. He's great, and the Rhett Reese and Paul Wernick know how to write dialogue for Ryan Reynolds, and it's great. We use magnets in a very effective and very awesome ways. If you can take away one thing from this movie, it's a famous Jesse Pinkman line: "Magnets!" Oh, that's what the movie is. Magnets are used very effectively in this movie. That's all I'll say. I'm saying too much with that already, but just trust me, magnets are very well utilized. But at the end of the day, this movie, Michael Bay. We see Michael Bay used to the movie's benefit, but also its detriment in places. You can't put it all on Bay for like why the movie is. It's held back for sure. It's held back. I mean, there are glimmers of a really good movie there, and it's the same thing with Rhett Reese and Paul Wernick. Sometimes their movies turn out really great, sometimes not so much. And there's a director factor in there as well. I can't put all on the director, but some of it might. I would assume some of it's the director. I think it just kind of I think it's a clash of sensibilities. I think it's kind of what holds the movie back. It's a decent story. It has great action, but again, a lot of Michael Bayisms kind of like throw it in your face. Like, it's a Michael Bay movie, slow-mo, military,
Yeah.
But outside of that, though, I think the Ryan Reynolds.
It sounds like the most Michael Bay movie to have ever Michael Bayed.
Yeah, but definitely, at least it's coherent. I'll give you that much. It's easy. You know what's going on.
Sure, it's better than any of the Transformer sequels.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, it's better than any of the sequels. Yeah.
Probably not better than the first Transformers movie, though.
I mean, again, the Ryan Reynolds at all is like a reason I'd check it out before I check out a Transformers movie. But I mean, sure. I mean, yeah, sure.
All right.
All right.
Okay, so Dragon, I saw one of the most underrated movies this month, and man, I gotta tell you, the media surrounding this movie, it's not fair. Richard Jewell. So, Dragon, this movie basically got buried by the media for stupid reasons that I don't want to get into, but let me just say, it's because the media doesn't want people to embrace this movie, because this movie is all about how the media fucks people over. This movie is absolutely a horror movie with the media as the slasher villain. And Dragon, I mean, this movie, it really gets into the heart of, someone who's falsely accused and what that does to the family and what that does to the person himself, how it inherently, even after he gets acquitted, how it can inherently ruin his life and have long-term lasting consequences. This is a harrowing experience, Dragon, and I honestly think it's Clint Eastwood's best movie of the decade.
Yeah, I love me a Clint Eastwood movie, man. A Clint Eastwood directed movie specifically, and of course, really like Sully. I enjoyed The Mule. Did he direct The Mule, or was that just?
Yeah, he did The Mule.
I love when he directs and he stars too. That's even better. But so I really wanted to see
that movie since Gran Torino.
Yeah, Gran Torino. That's a good one too. It's Torino rocks, man. I'm sorry, no, I don't want to drift down the whole Torino rabbit hole, but. It's a movie about a true friendship, man. But okay, now we get back. No, but seriously, I really wanted to see this movie too. Plus, one of the guys from I, Tonya was in it. The guy who was in I, Tonya and the Black Klansman. He plays Richard.
Hauser, he kills it, man. He is probably not going to get nominated for an Oscar, but he really should because he just disappears into this role. I mean, it's just... You feel so much empathy for this guy, and yet I think the true brilliance of the role is the fact that you totally get why he would look shady to the people that are looking into him. And so that's the thing that the movie really plays with. He's innocent, but by the same time, just because he's this dopey, like, kind of Paul Blart figure that's sort of getting himself into these bad situations, you can't help it. It's almost like a train wreck in slow motion, the way that he kind of just digs a hole for himself.
I think just Clint Eastwood, one of the best things he does in his filmmaking is he has like such a great beat on humanity in his works, like kind of the human condition in the sense of you have these characters, these protagonists who are really in their heads. We know what they're thinking. We know what their situation is, what they're going through, what they're faced with. And I just love that. I love how he does that in his work.
Totally. Sam Rockwell. I mean, Sam Rockwell is always amazing, but this is honestly maybe one of my favorite Sam Rockwell roles of the decade. As Richard Jewell's lawyer, I love the backstory that him and Richard Jewell have together. They're basically like old work buddies, and I love how that ties into where they are now.
Man, I want to see this movie so bad.
It's really good. Kathy Bates.
Yeah, she plays his mom, doesn't she?
Yeah. I mean, she totally makes up for being in Disjointed. Like, she is just totally Oscar worthy. I mean, God, it's got a killer cast. John Hamm,
the real Batman, the people's Batman.
John Hamm. Let me just say, John Hamm in this movie is basically Gaston in the form of an FBI agent.
Oh my God, really?
Yes.
Oh, it's awesome.
That's how.
He's on Good Omens too. He has a really fun role in Good Omens, Tiki.
So yeah, Dragon, I think you'd really get a kick out of Richard Jewell, but it's a harrowing movie, my friend. It really is. And like I said, I don't get political often, but I do think that this is a movie that the media legitimately did not want us to see because it does basically cut to the heart of why the media is dangerous.
It's so unfortunate this movie's just tanking in the box office. It's really hurting.
Like I said, I think a big part of that is because of the way that this movie was portrayed in the media.
I know, that's what I'm saying. You're right about it. I think it's a shame that that's happening because this movie sounds like it's great. And again, it's a niche movie, so at least it's going to be good.
I absolutely think that it far more deserves the attention than, like, let's say American Sniper. American Sniper was like a sensation, and I think that was just kind of an okay movie.
All right.
So. Okay, next up for you.
Next up for me, The Two Popes.
Oh, Two Popes. Okay, I definitely want to see this. I haven't gotten a chance yet. What do you think?
All right, so this is on Netflix for the folks out there, so you can watch it anytime. It's this. So this is about the next. It starts off in 2005. This is about the selection of the next pope after John Paul II dies. Of course, very famous event, the whole like lighting of the smokes. The whole ceremony, the whole. Now, essentially, here's a fascinating story. So the whole beginning is essentially like getting all the nitty gritty, basically the historical stuff of it all. Is So we have kind of an election. It's an election, but it's more of like a committee. But really, it's an election because there's kind of like we have like kind of the politico of the church in here. It's really interesting to see. It's really fascinating to see. Like we have these two candidates. You have essentially the political candidate, let's call him in Benedict and Pope Ratzinger's. Like I know him by Ratzinger, but essentially the guy ends up being Pope Benedict. You have like kind of Anthony Hopkins' character.
Mm-hmm.
Versus kind of the people's pope, as in the people love this guy, and all the rest of the people within all the cardinals, they love this guy, they want him because he's the guy. It's like the old adage of like the leader is the guy who doesn't want to be a leader, and that's Jorge Bergoglio. Bergoglio is the other guy. So he's played by
Price.
Yeah, Jonathan Pryce. Jonathan Pryce is so good in this movie, man. It's ridiculous. He and Anthony Hopkins are electric, but Jonathan Pryce might be the MVP.
I wouldn't be surprised if Jonathan Pryce got in there for Best Actor.
Yeah, he might be the MVP of the movie, man. He's really good. I mean, ridiculously good. Anyway, so point is, years go by. I believe I forget if it's like 2012 or 2013. By the time we check that, point being, there's a time jump. So after we history kind of plays out the way it does. The idea is that politically things, the whole we're looking past some really shady stuff going on within the church and everything, and this is not sitting well to Bergoglio here, and basically he's dissatisfied the way things are running. He kind of goes to visit the Pope. He goes to visit Anthony Hopkins, wanting to resign from his post, and essentially the whole premise of the movie is that these two guys have kind of a sit down, a conversation. He goes to the Vatican, he goes to visit the Pope, and have this I believe it's like over the course of maybe a day or two, or at least like a weekend or something. And they're just kind of sitting down having a conversation coming from these two different ideologies. And on the whole, every scene...
type movie?
In a sense, yes. In a sense. Now, here's the thing, though. If it were purely like in My Dinner with Andre, I think it'd be better. So here's the thing. Everything between Hopkins and Jonathan Pryce... Everything between Pryce and Hopkins, which is the majority, which is a good, maybe 75% of the movie, let's call it. All that is great. However, there's a flashback structure. The flashback structure, I think, distracts from where the real movie is. And it's not bad, it's just a distraction. I think it hurts. I'm loving what we're doing there, and basically we have flashbacks to Bergoglio's past. And it really, I think it hurts the pacing. That's the worst thing to say about the movie, but you see it for the performances of those two actors. That's the best part of the movie, the friendship that gets cultivated between the two. It's a good story. So it's literally the story about the two popes. That's the good part.
Okay. All right. So Dragon, a movie that does not have any male bonding at all?
What?
Uncut Gems.
So what's the story with Uncut Gems, man?
This movie is an anxiety attack in 2 hours, my friend. Oh, wow. Claude, to answer an earlier question, honestly, this might be one of my favorite live theater experiences, just because everyone was so on the edge of their seat for it. Now, Dragon, this is the second feature from the Safdie brothers. They directed one of my favorite movies from a couple years ago that you're not a big fan of, Good Time.
Yep.
And Dragon, honestly, I don't know if you'll be a big fan of this movie either. But I think you can get into this movie more than you got into Good Time, honestly.
Well, remember, I love Act 1 of Good Time. It just loses I don't like Act 3 of Good Time, though. That's the thing.
Right. But with Sandler, Sandler, I do think maybe outside of the two leads in The Lighthouse, I think Sandler is the performance of the year. He just absolutely just crushes it. I mean, this is his best role. Like, this is his Dragon. This is likely the performance that he is going to be known for on a dramatic level. Like, this is his 1 hour photo.
Really?
I would say so. This movie harrowing as all hell, my friend. I feel like the only drawback for this movie, there's a couple drawbacks to it. One of the drawbacks is that absolutely none of the characters are that sympathetic. Absolutely. Like, that's a problem. If that was a problem for you in Good Time, it's a problem here as well. I would wager to say that Adam Sandler doesn't do anything as scummy as what Robert Pattinson does in Good Time, specifically towards the third act, which you're alluding to. But Adam Sandler is just kind of like, he's basically just in over his head with the gambling, and I don't want to spoil anything, but, essentially he just, he kind of makes a series of bets, and they just kind of lead to disastrous consequences. Dragon, there is a really great dynamic where one of the people that is chasing Sandler for money is his father-in-law. And that leads to just a lot of like great family tension. And yeah, I mean, I'm not quite sure where this movie is going to end up on. I'm pretty sure it's going to be on my top 10. But I will say it's probably the biggest wild card in terms of like where I'm going to place it in the top 10. The editing in this movie is absolutely like, if you thought the editing in Good Time was distracting, this is going to be even more distracting. It's just the Safdie brothers style. I happen to really love the style. I think it's very unique. But I get that it's not a mainstream style at all. I get that some people are really going to gravitate away from it. But I personally really loved it. And like I said, just in terms of crafting anxiety on film, it's definitely the most anxiety-inducing movie since Dunkirk, I would say.
Interesting.
All right. Speaking of Dunkirk, Dragon, going from World War II to World War I, I managed to, on Christmas Day, make the trek down to San Francisco, about 60 miles away from me, to go see 1917, and I am glad I did. Dragon, here's the thing. The one thing with 1917 that it was like, okay, here we go. At the very beginning of the movie, they're getting letters from home, and we're establishing like, oh, this one character got the letter from home, and he's got a mom, and then the other character doesn't get the letter, so he's more of a loner type. Dragon, I mean, that's the type of stuff that I was glad that Dunkirk didn't do, as you know. That's kind of one of the things that I thought Dunkirk kind of revolutionized. But I will say that with this movie, the heart of it is these two guys, and you're with these two guys for literally the entire, there's not a frame of this movie that you're not with them, except when the camera kind of pans away to a vista shot or something. Dragon, I will say that in terms of the production design, this movie is absolutely incredible. The way that they designed the trenches, it's just staggering. It's just really staggering how this trench just goes on for miles, and they have like hundreds of extras that are like all doing different blocking and, kind of going about their business. And the camera is following the main characters, and they just built this trench that's able to handle all that and still look like super realistic at the same time. Oh my God, Dragon. I mean, absolutely, the camera work is everything that's been hyped up about. The music in this film is extraordinary. I will say there's a couple kind of cheap plot points in the movie. I don't want to spoil what they are. But I will say this. I think the cuts in Birdman, in terms of being a single take movie, obviously with this and Birdman, there are cuts. I will say that the cuts in this are a little bit more obvious than they are in Birdman. And there's one moment in particular where the camera just straight up fades to black for several seconds, where I was kind of just sitting there in the theater like, well, okay, that's a cut. That's very clearly a cut, But that's just me being kind of like a dick nitpicking film critic. I highly doubt it affects most people watching this movie, but to me it was just kind of like, all right, you're advertising this movie as being a one-take movie, and I know it's not technically all one take, but, you very clearly just established a cut right there. So other than that, which, like I said, Dragon, if that's the weak point of the movie for me, is just the fact that they cut once, I'd say this is a pretty goddamn good movie. Again, I'm not entirely sure where I'm going to rank it, but it's probably going to end up somewhere in my top 10, probably my top 5.
All right. All right, that brings us to the catch-up.
All right. Dragon, I'm going to make a confession to you.
Yeah?
I've seen Galaxy Quest a couple times. I'm not a fan. I've never really been into it.
Aww.
I'm sorry. I'm not a Star Trek guy, and the whole thing's a Star Trek parody.
But Tiki, don't you get it? It's like they did it better than any of the Star Trek movies. That's the whole point.
I'm not into it. I'm sorry.
You love meta stuff, really?
Dragon, this is the 90s Ghostbusters for me, all right? This is the 90s Ghostbusters. I acknowledge that it's a good movie. It's just not my movie, all right?
How long has it been since you watched it?
It's been a while. I need to watch it again, I admit. But
Or, well, point being, so what he's alluding to, folks, is Never Surrender, a Galaxy Quest documentary. I really wanted to see this thing badly, and even if I were to...
the good folks at Screen Junkies, which is kind of my main reason for wanting to see it.
Yeah, so I was hoping they were going to do a Fathom events on it. They did, but no, not a Fathom near me, which is, I feel is kind of ridiculous. But again, Screen Junkies kind of like a gorilla kind of sort of pulling that they can only be put out in so many locations. So it's not like they decide, like, no, only a few theaters. Like we can only get.
I'm sure they wanted as wide releases that you could. You know?
That's what I'm saying. And the point being, it was on Amazon. They put it on Amazon. I think.
Just like hand picking the theaters, like get picked.
Yeah.
Just like his little like Dr. Evil chair.
So importantly, so yes, this Screen Junkies, I think they've outdone themselves with this. Truly, I hope they keep doing more documentaries if they're of the quality.
Are the Screen Junkies crew on camera for any of this? Do we get to see any of the personalities? Like,
well, we don't see them, but I know we hear some voices. I mean, if you really have a keen ear, you might be able to snuff out who's who. Because there's
what, Nick?
Yeah, that's a thing. I know. I think the one guy, I think Joe. I think it's Joe. I think the gag. I'm sorry?
Joe Starr?
I think Joe Starr, yeah. Joe Starr. Here's the thing, I'm pretty sure he wasn't there because when they did they did an honest trailer on Galaxy Quest to promote the documentary. When they did that, they did like little commentary on the honest trailer, and I believe Joe Starr was there. He's the guy in the middle, if you watch that thing, I think it's Joe Starr. Who points that guy? He's blanking on certain details in the documentary, which implies that maybe he didn't watch. He says he watched it, he just forgot certain details. I don't think he was there on set during those days. I don't think he was. I don't know. Anywho, but yeah, seriously though, this documentary, man, it was everything I could have asked for. They checked all the boxes wonderfully. It was like, and I was on the edge of my seat, like, if they don't do this one, if they don't address this one part of the movie, you have to write like angry comments or something. Folks, this is like a huge part of the movie, and they addressed it as you hoped they would. And I was just I was blown away by some of the things they revealed. There were some it was really good interviewing on their part. We learned some really interesting things. Like, for example, I had no idea Harold Ramis was initially involved in Galaxy Quest. Initially, I had no idea about that. My mind was blown. Like, oh my god, he was the original director on this. That fell through. And it's seriously, it's very interesting. Kind of the core of the whole piece is the impact on fan culture, which that's what kind of Galaxy Quest is, the DNA. Where this is kind of a cult movie, but it's a cult movie in the sense of like this again. Many people, even J.J. Abrams, and that's kind of a point they make, where many people have said like this was the ultimate Star Trek movie, despite it not being a Star Trek movie. It's about like if they could have had the actual Star Trek actors like been in the movie, it would have been the best Star Trek movie in the sense of it's literally just like, what if we just took the actors and we put them in actual situation like they play on TV, which is an ingenious concept. That's what's so great about Galaxy Quest. And the idea, the commentary about fandom within the movie, that kind of fans help save the day in that movie. And that's how that connects to the audiences who also love Galaxy Quest and love Star Trek, who kind of relate to the movie in that sense. So I think it was just really on the money. I demand a home video releases. I want to own this movie, darn it! I won't buy it online. I won't own it online because I want to make sure I have it in case something happens.
Yeah.
Darn it! I've commented on their little trailers and their videos, like, come on, guys, when's the home video release, please? It's like, but yeah, this is. I hope that this gives Galaxy Quest the attention that it deserves in all the right ways. It was phenomenal. I was very happy with it.
Cool. All right. So, oh man. Oh, Dragon, I went out of town on a rainy day on my birthday to see this movie, and it was not worth it at all. Oh god, this was a disappointment. I saw Queen and Slim, Dragon, and this movie had potential. It had potential. It stars Daniel Kaluuya, which is honestly the main reason why I went to go see it. And it had an intriguing enough premise. The premise was that, these two people are meeting on like a really awkward first Tinder date. It's not going well at all. They're just giving, the girl is giving the guy a ride home. They get pulled over by the police. The cop in this situation is just like, you can tell he's the kind of like bastard cop who's just looking for trouble. And I will say, Dragon, the first, like the police encounter in this movie is super intense. And the way that it ends with Daniel Kaluuya just, out of sheer self-defense, and you feel that self-defense, shooting the cop to save his life. And then it ends with them, shoving the cop into their trunk. And then it cuts to the title, and you hear them kind of like frantically like, oh my God, what are we going to do? We need to get out of here. We need to drive. No, we go to the police. What the fuck? This is the police, Dragon, I was locked in at that point. I was fucking
You're
locked
just telling me this is a sell for the movie so far. Where does it go off the rails?
It goes off the rails immediately, because essentially the rest of the movie is just like a really boring road trip that's got some of the most slow pacing I've ever seen in a movie. This was directed by a first-time director who's only made music videos so far, and it shows. This movie feels like a 90-minute music video. It's so heavy-handed with like, hey, get it? They're the black modern day Bonnie and Clyde. Get it?
No.
Get it? Black Bonnie and Clyde.
Yeah, now the Queen and Slim makes sense. Like, God darn it.
Yeah, Dragon, this movie's a fucking train wreck. All right, I'm sorry.
Dang it.
I was disappointed too, Dragon, because like I said, I saw this movie on my birthday. I went out of my way to see it. I saw it on a rainy day, so that made it more difficult to get to the movie theater. And Dragon, it was honestly one of the worst movies of the year for me. Just in terms of like, I really hated sitting through most of it. I mean, the whole thing was just preachy, and it jumped around from side character to side character. You know what it felt like, Dragon? Remember Peanut Butter Falcon? Remember me telling you about that, the Shia LaBeouf movie in July?
Yeah.
It felt like a really bad version of that, because Peanut Butter Falcon is also a movie about, two people that are on the run, and, they come across a variety of different colorful characters along the way, and they get to learn a little bit of something about themselves. But this movie is it's so boring, and it's so slow, and it's so heavy-handed. There's like a scene where this black kid just like goes, like he charges into a crowd of police officers as if he's just like, yeah, shoot me, bro. Like he's basically yelling in the police officer's face to shoot him. And it's just like, okay, here we go. He's clearly going to get shot, and the movie's trying to make a big point. Man, this was just a miserable theater-going experience, Dragon. Honestly, I kind of regret not leaving and going to see Midway, which my grandparents were seeing in the other theater. Yeah, it was bad.
All right. So it brings me to QT8, the first date.
Okay.
So this was the Quentin Tarantino documentary.
Oh, nice.
It's on Amazon, so it's for rental on Amazon. Okay. Same thing with Never Surrender. So it's basically the things that came out in Fathom events for, I think, November. They both came out in December for for rental. So it's kind of the way that worked. Anyway, this one actually did come to me. I wasn't able to see it in Fathom though. But yeah. Anywho, so this is a great career retrospective. This basically goes like they show you a little bit of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, but that's the point. It's kind of like it's the first date, and then they show like maybe a little bit of trailer footage, like him shooting Once Upon a Time. It's really up to date. It's they have this really fun runner where anytime someone pops up for an interview who's been one of Tarantino's players, like basically Tarantino himself isn't in the documentaries. People tell him stories about Tarantino working with him. And we have these nice little animated segments where you get to see some recreations and some moments, and some of them are kind of played for the dramatic or the comedic or and of course the funny thing is when someone pops up there, we have this little graphic of like basically a little avatar for each Tarantino movie, and if an actor's been in more than one, as they would tend to be, they kind of pop up a little bit more. So it's like, for example, like Christoph Waltz is in it. He's he pops up in 2 because for Inglourious and Django, and Samuel L. Jackson he pops up on several. That's kind of it's a fun little graphic thing I wanted to highlight there. But it's we have a building. There's a building kind of like White Whale narrative. There's a building. Well, I shouldn't say White Whale. There's a building kind of like Jaws narrative with Weinstein, where some of the animated segments, there's like an intensity where this guy they cover like the big revelation. They cover the big, like, when that comes up in after like the 8 movies essentially. So there's kind of a build to that is kind of built throughout. It shows you some stuff that you never thought you'd ever see. Like they showed the footage of that I never expected. They showed footage of Uma Thurman's car crash.
Oh wow!
It shocked me, and I heard about this thing, and I was like, "Oh my god!"
Yeah,
they actually showed it. They made it. There's an ominous point made about it too. It's really interesting. He has some really good interviews by Eli Roth. He's of course Eli Roth. We kind of know him as the cinephile that he is, but of course, he's the Bear Jew. Rothy. We have Eli Roth, and we have Michael Madsen. We have like a lot of the great players that are giving really good stories. I think Michael Madsen's one of the really well utilized of the bunch there. So it's a really great respect for the Tarantino fans out there. I'd highly recommend. It's quite good.
Okay. Okay. Oh man, Dragon, you and I saw Klaus for seasonal shenanigans, and just generally speaking, we were both in a spirited mood. This is, I would say, this is not only one of the best Christmas movies to come along in a long time. This might be one of the most wholly original animated movies of the decade.
Yeah.
And Dragon, I would say this is probably like, it might not be quite up to the same category as these movies, but I would say, like, just looking back on Klaus, I really do think it's in company with like the Cocos and the Inside Outs and the Kubo and the Two Strings of the world in terms of like the best animated films of the decade for me.
Yep, just Netflix has a really good string of success when it comes to Christmas. I don't know what to tell you, folks. They just we keeps coming up Millhouse around the season for Netflix. This, of course, Sergio Pablos. He did this one for folks who may or may not know Sergio Pablos. He came up with the original idea for Despicable Me before it kind of got minionized. And yeah, it's basically came with everything but the minions, came with the core story and the group and all that sort of stuff. Anyway, but yeah, it's we have Bill Hoynes. He's a great creative and a great animator with a passion that you really want on this sort of thing. And I think he basically, if I just economize it in one sentence, it's that Klaus captured what I define as the Christmas spirit, and it's just simply wonderful. That's what the movie is for me, man. It captured everything I think of when I think of the holidays and like what it's all about, man. The credo of the movie, one true act of goodwill begets another, essentially. That whole run.
And my sell of the movie is that it is the most Nolanized take on a Santa origin story we've ever seen. In the sense that, like, pretty much everything in the movie kind of checks out. Like, yeah, I could kind of see that happening in real life. And then there's one sheet that they do right at the very end that's like the most earned we don't care moment of all time.
It is. But seriously, I can't recommend Klaus enough, especially around the holidays. But just period, yes, it's a great movie. Period, man. It's so good. Again, I would argue we haven't had a movie like Klaus since Arthur Christmas in terms of like a true Christmas classic, an animated Christmas classic. Mm-hmm. Same level. It's quite good.
All right. Okay. So, fastest DeLorean in the world, Dragon. What do you got here?
Part 2. The sequel.
Yes.
So yeah, so I just want to emphasize that. So yeah, this was it was utter kismet that I found this, by the way. So I was literally just I forget what exactly, but I was just looking into Adam Conscious. It's been a while, and I figured, you know what, the first Fast Lord in the World is a really great documentary. It's maybe not, it's not for everyone, I'll say that much, but it's a really interesting story. Adam Contras is this kind of this personality. He built the Back to the Future golf course in the Back in Time documentary, and he's a man of many hats in a sense. Where he's a singer, he's he's a performer. Here's the thing, Teague, I found this out. Apparently, he was the first vlogger.
Really?
Yeah, which is interesting. At the very least, if not the very first vlogger, he's the first guy with a continuous vlog. But I swear to God, I think he's the first vlogger ever. Like going back to 2000, if that was a thing then, he was the first vlogger who definitely kept it going. So the point being, he's got that claim to fame because the idea is like through all this DeLorean stuff, period. It's been going. It's a vlog that's been running for at least 10 years. Well, I mean, at this point, 20 years actually. But that's my point. Since it's going from 2000 to now. Anyway. My point is, he did this documentary about where basically he entered a contest where he's gonna have he has a DeLorean which he rents out to people like for books it for gigs and stuff, like people want the Back to the Future DeLorean at like a wedding or something, and or they want to see it, they want to take pictures next to it. It's for TVs. That's his company's name. He rents it out. That's how he makes his living. It's his bread and butter in the golf course. So anyway, so he did this documentary about building the fastest DeLorean. Basically, he would race and beat the record and have the fastest DeLorean in the world, which would be really good for his business. Really compelling story. I love the first one, and it ended on a big cliffhanger where essentially the DeLorean it kind of gets destroyed. And that's an awesome cliffhanger. And it said to be continued. That made my mind go on fire. Like, oh my God, there's going to be a sequel. And now time and again, I'm like, oh man, when's it coming? When's it coming? Because I could never, he basically, he releases the vlogs and the vlogs get edited into a movie. So I didn't watch every single one because I figured some of it's going to be in the movie eventually when he compiles it into a sequel. So I was checking yet again for the umpteenth time. I wonder if he's done or if there's going to be some sort of update or anything. Probably not. And I checked, it says, part 2. I was like, oh my God, is that what I think it is? And is he just talking about Back to the Future 2, or is it actually, oh my God, yes, it's part 2. It's on Amazon. It was on Amazon last month. I wish I checked it last month so I could put it on my memoirs for the current thing. Doesn't matter. So I'll watch it, man. I tell you, I was hyped for the sequel, and it lived up to my expectations. It really did. It was. I love Adam Contras as a storyteller. That's why I really love Fastest DeLorean in the World as a concept, where he's basically talking to Mayor Goldie Wilson at his bar, and he's laying out the story, and we see these clips and the footage, and it's all archival footage outside of the whole thing because it's vlogs. And it's he's just the man's a great storyteller. He's a nice guy. I mean, I fell more in love with Adam Contras than I had before on this. And this is essentially this movie. The sequel is about him reviving his hopes and dreams via the car. The car is a symbol for him reviving his hopes and dreams. And at the same time, as he's repairing the DeLorean, he's trying to repair the symbol of that with the relationship with his brother, who, again, the brother is very key in the whole formation and destruction of the DeLorean. Right. It's very McGill-esque, the story of the brothers in the sequel, as well as the first one, but especially the sequel. It's very McGill-esque, where this is an irreparable relationship type deal. It's just like these two guys, like they have really, one of them has really done the other one dirty in a big way. Which I tell you, man, it hit me. It really did. And of course, Adam Contras in the Back in Time. I'll put it this way. We joked about it earlier, but this one there is literally a cinematic universe of Back to the Future documentaries, if you think about it. And that's what this one kind of plays on. There is, all 3 Back to the Future documentaries are referenced in this. Because he's talking to other people outside of Mayor Goldie Wilson, outside of blanking on his name right now, but outside of that guy, where he's talking to the guys in the other 2 DeLorean documentaries, the director of Back in Time, where all 3 of them appear technically. So there was already an extended universe, but now, and I'm sorry, I'm going a mile a minute here. My point is, it's I highly recommend it. Steve, I know you're not crazy about the first one, but I don't know. Maybe if you have like a rainy day, you might want to check it out. Then watch the second one. The second one is not. It's for rental right now. If it eventually comes to Prime, which it probably will, but not for a while. If it eventually does, then you might want to do a double dose because the first one's on Prime. Second one is just for rental on Prime. So anyway, so I got a real kick out of it. I love it.
Okay. Let's see. So, Dragon, I got a real kick out of this. Was a big surprise for me. The Night Before, which is a movie, this is a Seth Rogen, Adam Goldberg movie that this was like right at the height of like the Seth Rogen craze of like the 2010s, like with This Is the End and movies like that. And Dragon, I don't know why, but for some reason this movie just didn't really land on my radar at all. And I wish it had, Dragon, because this is honestly like one of my favorite modern Christmas comedies. I laughed hysterically. Like, just this movie might not have the deepest plot. I think it's got some pretty paper thin sort of character development, but I don't really care about that because this movie is a lot of fun. The chemistry between the 3 leads is great. Seth Rogen, I think, does probably the best comedic acting I've ever seen him do in this movie with all the drug stuff he goes through. Anthony Mackie kind of has a hilarious turn, like kind of like a far less serious turn than he has in the MCU. You get to see him loosen up.
I'm taking the sweater off.
Joseph Gordon-Levitt definitely gets to shine as kind of like the dramatic center of the piece. So yeah, and then of course James Franco has a fucking amazing cameo that I won't spoil. Um, but just overall, Dragon. Oh God, and of course we would be remiss if we didn't mention Mr. Green.
Yeah, Mr. Green is the best part of the movie.
Of course, played by who is he played by? Dragon
Michael Shannon.
Michael Shannon. Yes, of course, and man, Mr. Green is just reason alone, Michael Shannon, to check out the movie. So, Dragon, I was thoroughly entertained by The Night Before. I watched it twice. I liked it so much.
Very nice.
All right.
Okay, this one I'll go by really quick. So, Geek and You Shall Find. So, this was, you've kind of seen this sort of thing before, but this is well put together. It's like an all encompassing documentary on superheroes and pop culture. Essentially, we have these three friends who kind of went to a bunch of conventions, kind of compiled interviews, kind of basically. What's refreshing about this is that it's on Amazon, by the way, so you can watch it on Prime, so you can watch this anytime you like. It's basically it's about the why less than the what. Like many times you go through documentaries like saying, and then this happened, then in the industry, then this happened, and this kind of like it really gets into the heart of like why these characters mean something to people. And they're actually talking to not only the industry, the people within the industry, but the fans, the cosplayers, the people at the cons, and we have this really touching bit where we see they go to the children's hospital and we see like the people. There's a really poignant part where we have superheroes visiting kids in the hospital, and there's really at the door where Spider-Man, a man dressed in a Spider-Man costume, is reading comics with a kid, and it's beautiful. And there's also, I believe, bear in mind it could always be proven wrong, but given the year's kind of at its end, I imagine. This is the last documentary appearance for Stan Lee. Stan Lee starts us off,
Ooh.
and there's a little tribute, little like thanks, special thank you to Stan Lee, rest in peace, that sort of thing. At the end of this, so again, we've seen kind of the last appearances of Stan Lee this year with Jason Mewes.
That's hard to accept.
Remember, Jason Lee. Sorry, not Jason. Jason Mewes had the last appearance of Stan Lee in his movie.
I still need to check that out for sure.
Oh yeah. And so yeah, this is and it was anyway. So yeah, it's good. If you're, it's kind of like you remember that old documentary Superheroes Unmasked that was on the History Channel. Do you remember that at all?
Yeah, I remember that.
I think this is kind of like a good update on that, where it's no Keith David, mind you, but it's pretty solid, all encompassing.
Keith David was a really good narrator in that one.
He was, and that's the thing. It's like dated as all get out now because the industry. There's the thing. I love that movie. I bought it actually. Remember they do that cheesy thing where they sell the History Channel documentary.
Yes.
I bought it and through them.
Ridiculously overpriced.
Yeah, I think I bought it through them. I forget if I don't think I did. I don't know. The point being, I got it. So, it's dated as heck with Keith David, man. Keith David. Anyway,
all right. Let's see. Next up.
Oh God, Kirk Cameron's Saving Christmas.
And I love hot chocolate.
So while you had, I had seen The Night Before, and I turned you on to that, and you earlier you did the same to me in kind, but to a differing result with I
wasn't expecting you to like this, but that's just because I'm way more into the so bad it's good camp than you are. Look, I stand by the fact that I think this is an epic so bad it's good movie.
I regret this so much. I really do. I regret this movie. It's a non-movie. It's a wasted opportunity of two characters in a car for the majority of the movie. It's like, imagine if we took that situation, we took the acting out of it. That's what we have in this movie. We took the acting out of all the potential of that idea, like a White House in a car situation almost. Took all the acting out of it, and it's just a missed opportunity. And it's like I was hoping it was gonna be like an absurdist thing. Or like a tongue-in-cheek thing, but it's not. Just boring. That's all I got to say on it.
Okay, fair enough. We can agree to disagree on this.
Sure.
I think it's an absurdist. Just I think it's just so what the fuck in so many ways. Just the way you can actually break down the ideology that's being spewed in the movie.
All right, let's see. So next, there's something on Netflix. It's called Iron Fist and Kung Fu Kicks.
What is this?
So this isn't bad. This is an interesting deep dive into the evolution of the kung fu movie genre.
Okay.
It's basically just kind of goes in like the whole I have the business got started, how it evolved, like how it was a really big thing, especially in the 80s. We cover all of Bruce Lee stuff. That's kind of the best part of the documentary. We cover Bruce Lee. And here's the really interesting part of it, Tiki. At the very least, if you're going to like fast forward to a certain chunk, like I'd recommend
Uh-huh.
fast forwarding to the Bruce Lee stuff, because the most fascinating thing for me in the documentary is how the business would kind of like just kind of utilize Bruce Lee to ad infinitum, and that the aftermath of his passing, so after Bruce Lee passed, they would use footage of him basically in the most disrespectful ways, and you could see how desperate they were to keep Bruce Lee around after his passing in movies.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And that's the fascinating thing in the movie, where we get to see like
say
how
that is one of the first things I think of when I think of Bruce Lee, is like all the movies that starred him posthumously.
it's basically the whole documentary is going to center around. It's a documentary that it's a genre that really lost its steam after the great past.
Oh God.
And that's kind of what that's kind of what it gets at there. How we just kind of like, it's like a genre that runs out of gas. It's kind of interesting, you know.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it's but as you can imagine, too, it loses momentum after that point a little bit too, where it's like, okay, I think we could have trimmed a few minutes out there. Where it's like, yeah, it's not the greatest documentary, but it's an interesting topic.
Right.
Next, little mystery movie time.
I think I have a feeling I know what this is, but you might
do
surprise
too.
me. All right, what is it?
The Squid and the Whale.
Yep. All right, tell me, what do you think?
So yes, so this is, of course, is Noah Baumbach film on divorce yet again. Another one. I can tell you, I think it's good, but it's uncomfortable to me. Like, I wouldn't go back to this, but I want to make it clear, it is good. It's just not my sense. Like, it's not for me. Use the old Mike comparison. It's
Baby
good.
Baby Eisenberg.
Okay, now here's the thing. Here's what I'm talking about. Where the psychological tragedy in the performance of Eisenberg and Jeff Daniels is quite fascinating.
Uh-huh.
It is. Just, you can see the damage unfolding before your eyes.
Yeah, totally. That's what I.
That's what I'm saying.
The movie.
So I can't say this movie isn't good.
To me, the arc of the movie is how Eisenberg goes from being on his father's side to his mother's side, and the way that is emphasized in the ending fucking hits me hard every time I see that ending. What do you think of the ending?
That's what I'm saying. Where again, that arc as a total and where it pays off there with that relationship. That is.
So just to be clear, you're a fan of the ending, because the ending means a lot to me on a personal level. I think
I like the.
It's the reason why the movie stuck with me. I think is that ending.
I'll put it to you this way, Tiki. I like it. I don't think I'm head over heels for like you, but I do respect it. It's a good ending.
Okay.
It is. But that's what I'm saying. On the whole thing, I think it's good. It's just I can't quite connect to it. Where it's that it's just a little too. I think
that Marriage Story is more relatable than this. Well, I think Marriage Story is like a much more refined version of this.
Well, that's literally that's yes. It feels like the director cutting his teeth, or like a draft for what eventually would turn into Marriage Story, which I feel I like Marriage Story better.
It's Noah Baumbach's following, essentially.
In a sense, I basically, yeah, exactly. That's a perfect analogy. Yes, it is. Uh-huh. Right. I like Marriage Story, but I could rewatch Marriage Story. This thing, I respect it, but I don't think I'd go back to it just for the sake of it. It's a little too real and uncomfortable for me. Just like, okay, I'm a little scared by it.
Whereas Marriage Story is real and uncomfortable, but it's also hilarious, and it's also got almost like a thriller element to it in some scenes.
I mean, I'm more captivated. Nothing again. I don't want to knock Jeff Daniels and Eisenberg, what they're doing in this movie, especially. But I think Marriage Story.
Let's not. Laura Linney definitely puts in her due in this as well.
She does. I'm just saying. I love Jeff Daniels, man. I really love. That's why I'm sorry, man. That's why I was kind of highlighting that. But yeah, your Laura Linney's also really good. But that's what I'm saying. I mean, I don't want to knock the performances, but it's just I feel Marriage Story is like it's seeing the ugly side of divorce in a way that's like we're not seeing like how scarily screwed up the kids are going down a path of like we do in Squid and the Whale. That's where things get a little because especially the kid brothers what freaks me out. That's the reason.
Oh yeah, that does freak me out too.
That's the stuff that makes me not want to go back to the movie where Marriage Story.
I hear ya. I can't blame you for that.
Also, a little fun fact: Ken Long, Juntao from Rush Hour, he's in it. He's the therapist.
Yeah. I'm familiar with him.
Little fun fact for the kids out there. Juntao.
He was also in Dragon, believe it or not, another Lost alum.
Yes, and also he was in Red Dragon.
Uh-huh.
Which is great, which more people should see. Anyway.
All right. What's next, Dragon? Let's
Yes.
try and end this out in like the next few minutes here.
Right. Okay, I'm gonna speed through these. Okay, so
Speed round, bullet round.
okay, Divide and Conquer, the story of Roger Ailes. Now, this I was hoping as well to maybe see Bombshell. You haven't gotten to it yet either. Basically, I was kind of hoping that even if I didn't see Bombshell, I'd have something that kind of gets me in the Bombshell space.
Uh-huh.
At least gives me a little bit of a Bombshell experience. And basically, Roger Ailes is a huge factor in Bombshell, the movie. So this is all about the guy. It's a documentary on Roger Ailes. I found this on Hulu. It was an A&E documentary. You may be able to find it in some other places. This was really interesting. It paints a really this is a surprisingly compelling look at Roger Ailes. You see basically the man behind Fox News. He's very powerful. Oddly enough, like when I think about it more, like they're basically they call him a kingmaker, and in essence, there's a little bit of like it's a little bit of a kind of a kingpin vibe with the guy. It's kind of scary. It's really scary. It's a real life.
I hear you. He's like the man in the room that has all the power.
That's the thing where this guy, here's the most fascinating thing. This is why I use the kingpin analogy. The most fascinating thing about the guy is it's a villain. He's a villain for sure, but a villain with layers, really interesting layers that this documentary highlights. Where he basically had like a trust no one philosophy that his father gave him. By his father, like told him like to jump off like the top layer of a bunk bed, and he didn't catch him on purpose to show him like that's the first lesson: never trust anybody.
Oh God.
Like that's screwed up, man. And he's a hemophiliac too, where basically again like one cut could really could. That's what I'm saying. That's the way he lived, and that's fascinating to me. Just seeing like that seeing what kind of it's a great story of a complicated man. That's kind of what Divide and Conquer. So I highly recommend, especially if you're going to Bombshell, man. You want to see what we're gonna have Lithgow playing Roger Ailes. You might want to check this out.
Okay.
All right. This one will go by real quick. Monkey Business: The Adventure of Curious George's creators. I was on a Hulu kick and I was just checking out things I've been meaning to check out for a while. And after I checked out Roger, I was like, okay, let's see. Hey, Curious George. This was not what I expected, though. It's not bad, but not what I expected. I had no clue about Curious George. Apparently, Curious George. He had a German. Basically, he was created by a nice German couple during the wartime. And the shorts, long story short, the original 7 books, and basically while they were on the move from Germany to France, nice couple, very interesting, and the book oddly saved their lives at times during some really risky checkpoint stuff. They're searching through their belongings. They found the Curious George book and they let them go by. It's really interesting.
Nice.
All right, 50-50. So
I've been meaning to check this out too for a while.
It was on Netflix, so I figured why not. Because I love Jonathan. Jonathan Levine's just growing on me, man. Because I saw Long Shot this year, and of course I realized, oh my god, the same guy who did the night before did Long Shot, and he did this 50-50 movie. Oh my god, like a string of really good Seth Rogen related movies with Jonathan Levine. And this is like another Jonathan Levine, film where he takes an unusual premise, but adds a lot of heart into it with our 2 characters of Joseph Gordon-Levitt and Seth Rogen, where Levitt has cancer. Seth Rogen's the friend, and he's trying to look at the kind of the upside of like it's a 50-50 shot. It's like glass half full, glass half empty. That's kind of the vibe of the movie. He has some really good performances. Anna Kendrick is really good in this movie. I love Anna Kendrick in this movie. She's the bomb in this movie, man. She's the therapist. She's really good.
Nice.
I just trust me. You want to see I think you really should see this movie, especially if you like The Night Before. And one of these days, if you see Long Shot, you're going to want to see 50-50. This might be the best of what the guy's done so far. Might be. So beautiful story, very human. I had a really good time with it. Okay, lastly, Harmontown. So I rewatched all Rick and Morty. I got the DVD set for the holidays. So I was so I checked out Harmontown because I remember he had a podcast. I was looking into it. And I found, oh my god, they had a documentary on the podcast. What do you know? And it's on Amazon. It's on YouTube, free with ads, so you can find it anywhere. It's I think it has a really great opening with a really great build-up. Dan Harmon is a very interesting subject. I wish there was more of a Harmon focus, though, because we talk about the podcast, and nothing against the podcast, but I feel some other elements of the podcast get brought up. Like he has a D&D guy on there, like a guy by the name of Spencer, who's like he kind of like took a guy and he kind of brought him on the road with him. It's a nice story. It's just like I want more of the compelling Harmon stuff that we start off with. So basically, Act 1 and Act 3 are really good. Yeah, it's just a little like okay, it's a little touch and go in the middle there. I had no idea he had a feud with Chevy Chase, which is fascinating to me. That was like a big, oh my god, Chevy Chase like chewed him out and they got fired off a Community. It's really interesting.
Oh wow.
But yeah. All right.
Okay, that's it. So best and worst of December, Dragon, go for it.
All right. Okay. Best's probably gonna be Marriage Story. Probably it's between that and Star Wars. I'm gonna say, you know what? I'm gonna.
Oh, don't you dare put Star Wars above Marriage Story.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah,
I
Marriage Story.
like Star Wars, but come on.
Yeah, Marriage Story. Yeah, okay. Marriage Story is the best this month. Probably Six Underground. Not that, but that's probably the worst. You can buy
All right.
Process of Elimination.
Okay, for best, I'm actually, you know what? Just for the fact that it was a memorable theater experience, and I just think the movie really delivered on a technical level. Best, like I said, Dragon, Marriage Story might end up higher than this on the top 25 of the year. Don't get me wrong, so don't hold me to this. But for right now, I'm going to say 1917 is the best. Is the worst. I mean, come on, Cats. But Dragon, let me just emphasize, I would rather watch Cats 10 more times in a row than watch Queen and Slim one more time, all right? So, Queen and Slim is really the worst theater experience I had. All right, I guess that's it. Big shout out to Claude Karinga in the comments. I have a feeling that next month is going to be a lot of catch up because it really is going to be kind of like a dry spell in terms of movies. I'm hoping to get caught up on some of the late bloomer Oscar films like Just Mercy and stuff like that, but we'll see how it goes. And all right, anything else on your end, Dragon?
Nope.
Okay. Well, folks, we've waxed on long enough. Now it's time to put the pen down. Until next time, when we return for another fitting chapter in our
Movie
memoirs.
See you next year.
Jellicle Cats. And I said, oh, how I never, never, never. Cat's so clever is